And I'm live. Hello, wonderful people of the internet. Welcome back to another episode of Leo's Labs. Today I'm back. I've been kind of in and out of streaming all week. I tried to do a stream, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday. I think I did one. I've done at least one other stream this week, but I've just been sick. Sunday, I lost my voice. Monday, I was getting my voice back. Tuesday, I decided to stream, and then after streaming, I lost my voice again. So this must be the second stream this week. You guys could probably tell my voice is still a little bit raspy or rambling. It's not quite where it's supposed to be, but you know, we're there. It's okay. I'm streaming. Let's just get this done. So just as a bit of a recap, the previous stream that I did on Tuesday, again, I was still a little bit sick, was just related to the concept of creating an open research lab. It's been my dream to do so for a very long period of time. I have some very clear research goals I want to do related to computer graphics, which I think could create a relatively good open research company. I think it's something that we could start doing this year. And we talked a bit about like how that could happen. But I didn't really go into too much detail because I don't think I knew the details at that point. And so I think today, if you guys are willing to, we could have further discussions on that point. But that's not the main point for today. I'm actually going to be going through what will hopefully be the very last work I have to do for MIT. If you guys don't know, I've been working with MIT. At MIT, I don't really know exactly how to describe this. I'm essentially a consultant for the Julia Lab. And in particular, what I've been working on recently is molecular dynamic simulations in Julia. So let me just go ahead and open this up and let me show you what I mean. So I did also do another video not too long ago about molecular dynamics, and I talked about it and all this kind of stuff. So I'm particularly working with a package called molly.jl. Now, for the record, I was working with a group called Sesamix. Let me just go there. I'm working with a group called Sesamix. I don't actually know what it stands for. It's like Center for Exascale Simulation, blah, blah, blah. It's a group within MIT that does like large-scale simulations, and one of the simulations they do is molecular dynamics. So what is molecular dynamics? That is the question. So molecular dynamics. All right. Let's say we have a particle in space, right? So here's a particle, right? And another particle over here, another particle over here, another particle over here. Just, I don't know what these are. These could be atoms, they could be stars. It doesn't really matter. They're just n bodies, n particles in space, right? And we want to track how these particles are going to move. Well, assuming there's nothing else in space, well, then the only way that these guys are going to move is based on force laws from other particles. These two are going to interact, these two are going to interact, these two are going to interact. These are all going to interact with each other, right? That means if we want to track the movement of this particle, all we have to do is sum all the forces from all the other particles. To track the movement from this particle, we have to sum all the forces from all the other particles, so on and so forth. You can clearly tell that the scales is n squared because there's n particles, all of which that have to sort through or sum through all the n other particles in the simulation, right? And your force law is typically something like F is equal to ma, or is equal to like gmm over r squared for gravity, or whatever it is for colloids. When I did plasma simulations, we did Coulomb's law instead, which is like what is it, CQQ over r squared instead. But basically, it's some sort of force law that forces them all to move in some motion, right? And when these particles are molecules, it's called molecular dynamics. Otherwise, it's called an n-body simulation. There is some nuance here in that a molecular dynamics engine does more than just n-body. What I just talked about here is an n-body simulation, but molecular dynamics, also has like thermostats involved with it and like things in order to do better like statistical engineering afterwards and all this kind of stuff. But at its core is an n-body simulation, right? Now, one of the key things, like key differences between, let's say, galactic simulations and molecular dynamics, is how they deal with neighbors, right? So neighbors are like the subset of particles that each individual particle has to sum over. So in this case, I describe this as an n squared. All particles interact with all other particles, right? But obviously, if we're doing like a gravitational force law, it falls off over r squared, right? That is to say, the further away you are, the less likely it is that you need to care about the particle's force, right? Because like if you're so far away and r is so big, the force is going to basically be zero, so you don't have to worry about it. So you might be able to like just not worry about, let's say, this particle right here, and when you're talking about this particle here, right? You could just sum over these neighbors in here, right? And the way in which we deal with this neighbor list is a little bit different. For galactic simulations, we usually use something called a Barnes-Hut simulation. Barnes-Hut. Which is that we kind of discretize space. And for molecular dynamic simulation, we create something called a neighbor list. Okay, I can't write list. But you guys know what I mean. So essentially, it's a list of lists which tell us which particles interact with which ones. Depending on the simulation type, you'll do different things. It doesn't really matter for our purposes, but I'm bringing this up because the error that I'm specifically getting with the molecular dynamics simulator right now is with the neighbor list, right? This is something that was recently changed like a few weeks ago, and is like kind of this big change that I have to do. Rather, it was a big change, and I have to basically make sure that those changes work on my own GPU. I haven't said this yet, but the big thing that I've been doing for Mali is I've been creating or giving it heterogeneous support, that is support for multiple different GPU backends. If you're familiar with the stream that I've done before, you'd be familiar with this type of content. Essentially, I'm porting it over to kernel abstractions so that people can use it on their Macs, they can use it on their AMD GPUs, they can use it on Intel, all this kind of stuff. So that's the goal. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to run the tests, and we're going to go from there. Hey, Hannah, how are you? And anyone who might be lurking in chat, hey, thanks for being here. Let me just double check that I am actually live on Twitch, because the Twitch chat's a little bit quiet. Usually Twitch chat, at least there's someone there. Anyway, it doesn't really matter too much. Okay, so let's go over here, and let's just run the tests really quick, shall we? Hey, how are you? By the way, you have been doing a lot of work on Discord. I really do appreciate it and all the discussions. But I still don't know how to pronounce your name. Is it Chaga? Is that okay? Is that how it's pronounced? Kachaga? I once tried to build a particle simulation. It didn't work. Yeah, particle sims are, on the one hand, straightforward, and then all you have to do is sum all the particle forces together. But on the other hand, they are sometimes tricky to get right, especially when you're doing them in parallel. I put a video out a while back talking about like 4-dimensional gravity simulations and stuff like this. And when I did that video, I don't know, there were a whole bunch of issues that come up when you do these types of simulations that you have to work through. And we did it all live on stream. Man, so I'm going to bring up some context here. Let me go ahead and run the tests, and we're just going to wait for those tests to fail, and we'll start working on them. So CD projects, Sesamix Mali. Same thing over here, CD projects, Sesamix Mali. Over here, we're going to Julia, -- project, T12, and now we're going to run test. Okay, so recently on Discord, Chaga has actually edited down a video discussion, the video discussion we had on Tuesday, I believe. And the edit's quite nice, but I felt like there was something missing, and I can't quite figure out what it is. So until that is figured out, we're deciding what we want to do with that. But what I will say is the following. Very clearly, and this is something I brought up multiple times before, the stream content is quite different than the rest of the content I put out. And with that said, there is very clearly an audience for the stream content that is not necessarily the audience for the mainstream content, or like the main channel content that I haven't put out in years, right? And I've been trying to figure out ways to unify these two groups. Not that it really matters too much. Like, it's not like I really care that much about sub count. But it is, I've been trying to think of ways in which we could both have a live stream and use a live stream for content. I've never been able to do that. I used to do like hours and hours and hours of live streaming, and then I'd condense it all down to a 3-minute video. And that made it so that people watched the video did not realize that it spent like literally like, I don't know, maybe 40 hours of live streaming content, of which took, multiple hours to produce outside of stream. You know what I mean? Like, hundreds of hours for a 3-minute video. And it'd be nice if I could find some way to connect the dots. You know what I'm trying to say? And so with that said, I'm quite interested in like the different types of streamers that you guys watch. I know Soding is one live streamer who does technical content. Then there's also, to be honest, I'd count Kit Boga here. I like his scam calls. They're really fun. But let's see, what other types of content creators are there? There's Prime Again, I think, as well, that will do this type of content where they'll make some sort of technical content. They'll edit it down into like standalone videos for people to watch. Anyway, this is the type of stuff that I'm trying to see, like what people are interested in watching. I don't know what gravitates me to unpronounceable names. There isn't a single right answer. It sounds like one valid way. Yeah, I mean, that's how it goes sometimes. I think the nice thing about pseudo anonymity is that you can be anyone, and you're not beholden to like the structures of society. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it's kind of fun, like I enjoy, I also like putting down names and stuff that are just kind of weird. I mean, my name's Aleos, L-E-I-O-S, it means like smooth in Greek. Yeah, but I used to use it as the name of one of the characters in the books that I was writing, and that's actually why I use it for the name. Okay, so we just got an error here. I'm going to go through the error in just a second. The Hello Leos Labs 2 Wonderful of episode people. Welcome back, Internet of. How are you, T.S. Joss? I hope you're having a great day. Right. I think now's the best time to say this. Just because I recognize stream today is going to be scattered, and it has always been scattered. I'm a scattered person. I have a problem. A bunch of problems all put together. It's not just that I'm sick. House swimming, man, I wish I had time to swim. I have not. Between the MIT work, like literally this year, I've got 2 papers out. I've written 2 chapters of the GPU book. I have, been sick. I don't know. This year has been insane. Not to mention whatever's going on in the US right now. It's just I have no time to think about anything. And this goes back to my problem. See, so let me just explain something. I have a child, okay? The child is not necessarily the problem. He's a great kid in like almost every way, except for one, in that he does not sleep. He just does not sleep. So last night would be something that I would consider a good night. Okay, he slept relatively well. Here's what he did. He slept from 11:30 to 5:30, and then again he slept from 7 to 9. Let's do this. To 9, okay? Now, let's just count the hours here. Right, this was a good night. This is a good night. This is the most sleep that he normally gets. So 11:30 to 5:30, that's 6 hours. 7 to 9, that's another 2 hours. So he got 8 hours of sleep, right? Now, again, let me just, if he's getting 8 hours of sleep, then my theoretical maximum is 8 hours of sleep, because I still have to clean up. I have to get ready for bed myself. I have so many other things to do. So I, even on good nights, am getting much less than 8 hours of sleep. And it's pretty rough. Now you could say, okay, but I also have, a partner who's helping me out, and I do really appreciate that. And like, I'm not saying like, it's not like, we're splitting household duties pretty much 50-50. It's just that it's a situation where I'm incredibly tired literally all the time. And so, yes, I would love to have more time, like to go to the pool or something like this, but I can't. Look, I just can't right now. I'm basically dead 24/7. So as I'm rambling and as I'm like struggling to get stuff done, just keep in mind that I'm so sleep deprived. I can barely think most of the time. Like yesterday, not last night, but the night before last night, he got 5 hours of sleep at best. And, that meant I got 3 hours of sleep at best. And okay, maybe 4 hours if you're really counting. But man, I was dead. It's just been rough. So that is a problem that I've been having, and I'm going to mention it now. I have mentioned it before. I'm going to mention it in the future. Until my kid sleeps through the night, I can't. That's my life. I can't. Good morning. How are you guys? I hope you're all having a great day. Isn't 8 for teenagers? Remember, adults only need 6. I kind of forgot where it's coming from. You've been really productive. Yeah, so he's 2.5, just for the record. I didn't state that. He's 2.5. And at 2.5, you definitely should not be getting 8 hours of sleep. You should be getting hopefully 10 at night. So I think the sleep schedules range from like maybe 8 at night to like 1 in the day. That's roughly what he's getting. He's getting a little bit less than that. To some kids are literally getting 12 at night and 3 during the day. You know what I mean? And the thing that's really bothering me, and I know I shouldn't be bothered by this, and I know this is unrelated to the stream, and I need to get back on topic, but the thing that really bothers me is that sometimes I talk to other parents, right? And, I don't usually bring up the sleep issues too much because I think it's not really worth talking about, but they'll complain about their kid's sleep schedule. And they'll say something like, like, my kid didn't go to sleep until 11, or they'll say, my kid woke up in the middle of the night and disrupted my REM sleep. And I'm like, man, if I could consistently get my kid to sleep at 11 o'clock, I would be ecstatic. We have not been able to do it. Regularly he sleeps after 11. I think the average is like 11:15, 11:30 now. And then, if I had the privilege to think about REM sleep, oh my goodness, if I had the privilege to think about REM sleep, I would be... Like, we're talking about completely different levels of sleep deprivation here. You know what I mean? And so I'm sitting here and I understand, I'm trying to sympathize with these people, but also it's very difficult for me not to just like lift up my middle finger and say, screw you guys. I mean, like, we're like, you can complain all you want, but you are like literally, you're able to sleep through the night now. That is amazing. Like I've never, like, we have not been able to do that for the past 2.5 years, Anyway. Feel you with 202 at the moment. Yeah, I think it's, I think if he were to sleep through the night, I honestly think my child would be perfect. Like, okay, there's a couple things, like, he's a little bit too independent. I wish he could let us help him more. But honestly, independence at 2.5 years old is probably the best case scenario. He's fine. He's almost perfect in every other way. It's just a sleep thing. You know what I mean? And so if we can get that sorted, I think it's fine. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because I do have to make sure that I'm leaving stream directly at 3. I've got a meeting, and then after the meeting, I have to make some dinner. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because, well, the only going theory we have as to why his sleep is so bad is that he might be iron deficient, maybe, which sometimes causes sleep deprivation and issues like this. And so I'm doing everything I can to stuff this kid full of iron. Like, I made these cookies yesterday that were like, yeah, they're a little sweet because I have to have them eat them. But if he has 2 cookies, I think 3 cookies, he has his daily allotment of iron, like, set. I'm gonna be making some like banana bread later that I'm doing something similar with it to like just stuff it with iron to make sure that like, okay, obviously I'm not like, it's not iron, like, it's not like I'm just putting like literal iron in there. I'm using iron fortified foods and stuff like that. But I'm going to do the same with banana bread later today. I have like an iron cast skillet, specifically because people say that it's better at creating foods that have iron in them, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't know, it's insane. Thinking outside of the box here, ask a doctor. I have actually asked a doctor. So here's what the doctor said. The pediatrician says, is the child happy and healthy during the day? And the answer is yes. In which case he says, well, then in that case, it's within the realm of normal sleep, like normal sleep behavior is what he said. And in particular, he said, that's awful for the families. But if he is happy during the day, there is nothing that needs to be done. That's what he said. That's what he said. And like, it's fine because we're the only ones suffering from it. But like, we really got to fix it, There's a study that shows teens tend to sleep later at night. So there's been a push to move school an hour later to allow for more sleep. Yeah, I think it's true. It does depend on the teen. Like for me, I was always getting up at 5 for morning swim practice, and I really enjoy like the morning hours. That's when I get the most work done and when I feel the most productive. But that's not true for everyone. What worked for us was sleep training the oldest baby. Yeah, so we only have the one kid. At this point, so we don't have to sleep train like the oldest baby, but yeah, the issue with sleep training is we have tried this and it just didn't work. Maybe we just didn't do it right. There's just a bunch of different things that we could try, but it just didn't work for us when we tried it. It worked for like a month and then he was out, but then the problem was he would just stay in his bed and then he would still continue playing, and then he would continue. Like he'd still wake up, but he would start playing, and then he'd start doing dangerous stuff because he found a way out of his bed. And then it ended up being like, okay, well, screw it. Like, just one of us has to stay up to watch him anyway. You know what I mean? We could not get him to consistently stay down and not have split nights. And so it ended up becoming, anyway, I'm rambling about stuff that doesn't matter. I'm so sorry about that. I got up early on Saturday to watch cartoons. Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on your motivation. I was very motivated when I was a kid to swim in the morning because like I thought that was like what older kids did. They went to like morning swim practice, and if you did that, you were kind of part of the cool kids, I think is what I thought. And so I even during my teenage years, I don't think I was consistently getting 8 hours of sleep. I was I'd go to bed at like, I don't know, 9. I'd get up at 4, something like that, so I could get to practice at 5, that type of stuff. Anyway, I don't know why I spent so long rambling about that. I'm so sorry. My long story short, I'm tired. That's what I should have said. I'm tired because my kid didn't sleep. I could have said all of that in one sentence, but I didn't. I instead decided I would talk about how my kid doesn't sleep. Look, I need to sleep. I know I need some sleep. I'm tired. If anything, this discussion has led me to, has hopefully allowed me to like, make more clear how much sleep that I need, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and read this error message and let's go from there. So here's the error message. Let's go ahead and pinpoint where it's broken, pinpoint why it's broken, pinpoint how to fix it, and then try to fix it. Okay. I have about 2 hours until my next meeting, and I think hopefully we can get this done in that time. So I did look at this last night, just before going to sleep at night. It was like, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning when I was looking at this. And essentially the error, couple things. One, I wrote a branch that basically gave us kernel abstraction support so that this code could run on AMD GPUs, Metal, all this kind of stuff. 2, the branch worked. 3, the main developer of Mali took over the branch and did some developments. 4, the branch is now broken. Right? I'm not saying the main developer of Mali broke the branches. What probably happened is in my initial branch, I was not, I didn't test a particular area, or I didn't like, I somehow had CUDA doing one thing and AMD doing something else. I'm not entirely sure what happened, but when we're going through the code right now, it is clearly broken. And in particular, it's broken on this accumulate function, which is all within AMD GPUs. I need to find the point where it's broken in Mali, and then I need to see if I can replicate that. And if we go back to neighbors line 175, we can find the line that is broken on. So let's go here. So let's go vi source, neighbors, and then we go to line 175. 175. Okay, so it says find all nf.neighbors. So what I need to do is figure out what the type is of nf.neighbors. We know it's all something.false, right? And we know that they should be Booleans because if we go to find neighbors, 1 second, if we go to find all, it's calling rock array of Boolean to AMD GPU mem buffer. So let me just create a rock array of Booleans, right? And let's see what we can do here. So I'm gonna do it on this terminal as well because it's just slightly larger and I think more people can read it. So Julia, --project T12. All right. Now we're going to do using AMD GPU. Now we might have an issue here in that AMD GPU is calling a different version of AMD GPU, like the version that's being used in the test. Sorry about that. Could be different than the version that's being called in my being locally installed, you know what I mean? Because we're using a different project. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Storage not defined. What is this now? Let me just do an update and see what we can do. Up. Sorry to jump here and ask something completely off topic, but does anybody know what window manager Leos is using? I'm using OpenBox. Here, I'll go ahead and type it in here. OpenBox. Actually, if you go to Discord right now, let me go to update and let me go to off topic, I believe. You go to the pinned messages and I believe... Yes, here it is. It's in the pinned messages on the off-topic channel. So if I create the invite, copy that, and paste that. No, of course, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I don't know why it doesn't work. There should be a Discord link somewhere, like in the Twitch description or something like that. And if you do that, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. I messed up. Hey, I gotta be right back. I did something really stupid, and I gotta fix the stupid thing that I did. I'll explain in just 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Okay, here's a topic that I didn't think I was going to talk about today. Can we talk about beans for a second? Can we just talk a second about beans? So here's the thing. I'm a vegetarian. 90% of my diet has to do with beans, okay? Thank you, Chaga, by the way. So, I don't know if people cook with beans. I do it all the time. Here's what you got to do. 1, you boil the beans. But boiling isn't enough, okay? You then have to sit, after boiling, wait for beans to soak up water. This is something like for 4 to 6 hours. And then 3, boil the beans again before you use them. Pretty much any bean is the same way. If you start with a dry bean, you got to boil them, you let it sit and soak up water for 4 to 6 hours, and then you boil them again. This is how you cook beans. Kidney beans, I don't know, black beans, white beans, chickpeas, they're all the same. The only difference is for lentils, which I don't know if you count them as beans or not. So the reason I bring this up is because, yeah, don't forget to change the water before boiling again. Yeah. So you can soak them overnight as well. I just find that boiling and then waiting for the beans to soak up water 4 to 6 hours and doing the overnight after the boil tends to lead to softer beans if you want to use it for like more like blended stuff. So this is how you do it. Okay, this is how I've been doing it. This is what I normally do. And yeah, like what Hannah said, you definitely want to change the water before boiling in the beginning. This is all true. Okay, so the reason I bring this up is because before stream, I realized I need to make food for my kid. Right? I usually make food at 4 o'clock p.m., just before getting him from daycare, right? So we do an early dinner, blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, we need something that's very iron rich that I can give to him. Now, again, everything that I make usually involves beans. And so I said, let's make hummus. I haven't made hummus in a while. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a bunch of chickpeas in a pot and I'm going to boil it, right? Then I got online and started streaming. About 5 minutes ago, I smelled something burning. Right? I was like, oh, what is that? And I realized I forgot to turn off the stove and the beans were just sitting there boiling and they ran out of water and then they started burning. And so yeah, I've got a bunch of burnt beans sitting in my sink right now that I'm going to have to deal with. Yeah, okay, it happens. Oh, well, it is what it is. If being vegetarian was my only option, I would straight up kill myself. I have too many allergies that would limit what I eat even more. That's totally fair. I mean, like, I totally understand that it's a privilege for me to be able to be vegetarian. And it's also a privilege for me to be able to regulate my diet enough that being vegetarian is an option, right? Like, for example, meat eaters, if you're typically eating a bunch of red meat, you probably don't have to think about your iron consumption because just eat like a steak and you're fine. You know what I mean? Like, there's a whole bunch of different ways or things that I have to do because I'm vegetarian to make sure that my diet is nutritious enough that I'm not like I don't know, missing out on some vitamin. Like for example, the B6 and B12 are really hard to get. I have to take multivitamins for this. And essentially what I'm saying is I'm not encouraging everyone to be vegetarian. And my son is not vegetarian. We try to feed him meat whenever he can. He just tends not to eat the meat. And so we tend to do more vegetarian foods because I tend to do a lot of the cooking. I use pressure cooker or rice cooker so that I can hear the whistle of the cooker. I can't eat outside 90% of the time because eggs and soy. Yeah, no, that sucks. Also, like, to be honest, there, like, it depends on where you live culturally as well. Like in Japan, it's next to impossible to be vegetarian. So I've been there before twice. Forgot to turn off the stove. That's why I really want induction. Yeah. So to be fair, it's not a like open fire stove. It is an induction. I think it's induction. Yeah, I think it's induction. I actually don't know what induction means in this case, but I think it is. It's not like they were burnt on fire. It's just they're black now. And I don't know if you've seen chickpeas before. They're supposed to be white. Or white-ish, off-white. I don't know. What a stupid thing for me to do, man. Like if that doesn't show I'm tired, nothing will. All right, let me go ahead and catch up on chat here because Windows Manager, I think that's been settled. I'm a big fan of Xmonad. You're a gentleman. I'll have to find this link. Thank you. Did you know how I learned Xmonad at Haskell in the middle of exams where I had the impulsive desire to set up Xmonad? I think that's how everyone learns Linux. You know, they sit there and they're basically people learn the operating system because they're distracted or they're trying to distract themselves from actual work that they're trying to do. And then they convince themselves that it's actually more efficient to do it this way. I think there is some truth to it. I think it is probably more efficient to use Linux for a lot of development tasks than Windows. I really do believe that. But is it more efficient to go through the install of Arch just so you can avoid installing VS Code on Windows? I don't know if that's true. You know what I mean? Like, I personally find Linux very intuitive and found Windows very difficult. But that's just me. And I understand that most people are probably not that way. You know what I mean? Okay, so let's go down. Let's see. In India, it's very common to be a vegetarian. Yeah, something like 40% of South Indian groups are vegetarian or something. Some large metric. It's very common. The thing that gets me about being vegetarian, if I could do a side topic for just a second, people hate vegans. You know what I mean? They hate vegans, right? I don't know why. People just don't like vegans. I'm fine with vegans. I think they're fine. There's no issue. Maybe because I'm vegetarian, I am maybe closely aligned to them. But the thing that bothers me is people hate vegans because they say that every vegan spends all of their time talking about being vegan. You know what I mean? Like they spend all of their time talking about how like, oh, I could never eat an animal because it has, a heart just like me or something like this. Certainly there are some vegans like this, no doubt. But by and large, the vegans I know are normal, When you compare them to like the vehement meat eaters, I don't know what to call them. Like those guys are insane. There's so many people that when I tell them, oh yeah, I don't eat meat, they're like, oh my goodness, how could you? Like they act like it's an affront onto them. Like they act like I just slapped them in the face. They'll say things like, I couldn't go a day without bacon or like, meat is my life. It's like, come on, stop this. Like, what are you doing? Like you're complaining that vegans are like, I don't know, acting like all high and mighty on people. And yet you're acting all high and mighty because you're eating meat. I don't know. It's weird. It's such a weird thing. For me, I don't necessarily attribute any like morality to being vegan. I think just it's something you decide to do for yourself, and if that fits your own moral compass, that's fine. I'm vegetarian because I actually have digestive issues when I eat red meat, and I just decided I could cut the dependency out of my life, and so I did. There's no other reason for it. I could go back to eating meat, but at this point it's been 10 years, and I don't have any reason to. So I learned Linux because I was like, this seems avant-garde. Now I can't do Windows. That's how I feel like as well, maybe. Like after using Linux for a while, now when I go back to Windows, it feels rough. So I used to love pears and apples and some other fruits and many nuts. Guess what? I got them during adulthood. I thought myself, I'm crazy the first time I got allergies after eating pears. You have allergies from eating pears? My goodness, that sounds insane. I've got a friend who's quite similar. She's got like celiac disease and like just so many different things. I actually don't know everything that she has, but her diet is very hyper specific. Like she can only eat very specific things. And like, man, I just feel badly for her. You know what I mean? Western culture is very touchy about meat. Yeah, isn't it though? Like I find it very weird that we care so much about. Anyway, had steak again lately and felt great for breakfast. Oh wait. Had steak and eggs. Oh, steak and eggs lately. And felt great for breakfast. Yeah, it's fine if that's what you want to do. No issues. Now, don't go back to Windows. I'm just going to use Bazite. I don't know Bazite. Generic Steam OS. There was a message retracted here. I'm sorry, I missed that. Been there before twice. In my opinion, carnivores is even more obnoxious. They basically only eat steak, cheese, and milk. These are the group I'm talking about. Like the group who like they'll never eat a vegetable in their life. And I'm like, guys, carnivores, I guess. I'm like, guys, like, come on, just eat broccoli. It's tasty. I like broccoli. Okay, maybe broccoli. Some people, I understand some people don't like broccoli, but man, sometimes just like a stalk of broccoli is like all you want. Like just a carrot, broccoli, a celery stick. I know. There's no nutrition to celery, but it just tastes so good. Like I don't know. I can't describe it. Yeah, good salad. Man. Like there's certain things where it's like, man, I understand it's polarizing, but it's so good. I love vegans and vegetarians because they allow me to eat some foods, but 50 to 80%, I can't eat vegan stuff because of soya. That's true. That's totally true. Also, your liver will love you. I love cauliflower. Oh, cauliflower is great too, man. Cauliflower is like the sleeper pick for vegetables. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say here, but like, when people go for vegetables, typically broccoli overshadows cauliflower, but yet, I don't know. I like cauliflower. I will be right back. I just did the same thing again, guys. I was like, yo, I still need beans. It's okay. I'm going to boil some more beans. So I set it up. It started boiling, and then I started smelling something again. I was like, oh no! I thought I'd burnt my beans again twice in 30 minutes. How can you burn beans twice in 30 minutes? It's okay. It'll be fine. They're soaking now. It's okay. It's not going to be a problem. I think when people see green, they think to themselves disgusting. Man, vegetables cooked well is delicious. Yeah, honestly, I just, man, like, I'm sure Bugs Bunny. I'm sure Bugs Bunny is actually one reason why a lot of kids love carrots. Because he used to always eat carrots and go, what's up, Doc? I used to do that as a kid. And like, I found myself really enjoying carrots. I never liked the little baby carrots. But when I got a full stalk of carrot, man, I'd always like to do that. That was fun. Anyway, long story short, I think like this discussion is completely off topic. Yeah. I like vegetables. What can I say? I'm a fan. Put olive oil on vegetables. Try them. Put in the oven. Oh yeah, we do baked vegetables all the time. Baked vegetables all the time. I'm sitting here rambling about beans and stuff, and I'm, after just talking about, man, I don't know why I'm like, man, my YouTube viewership's not very good. Meanwhile, I'm literally talking about boiling beans in the middle of a discussion about scientific computing. This is completely off topic. All right, let me see if this works or not. Well, I missed something. It's a Trojan horse, cauliflower rich, sauteed cauliflower. Cauliflower is great, though. Our family loves cauliflower. I learned this. I try to reduce my meat intake. I like green veggies anyway, so no problem. Oh, and tempeh too. Great meat as substitute. Yeah. Also, there's a lot of good meat substitutes nowadays. Let's do A is going to be equal to, how about BA? Bit array, and then ABA is going to be equal to that. Okay. So here's my question, right? This is what I have to figure out. I'll get back to this in just a second. Thinking about hate, what I can't stand are the extreme activists. That's going to annoy the crap out of you. Yeah, I think this is what it is. I think what happens is, like, if you're in a niche area, let's say you're doing Linux, right? Yeah, look, we're 2% of the market share for gaming or something like this. There aren't very many people who are gaming on Linux. It's not common. I think we're like 5% market share overall or something like this. It's actually not particularly small, but it's not particularly large anyway either, Same with like trans groups or any small group of people, vegans as well, like small groups of people, right? If you do not hear from this group of people at all, you don't know they exist. If you do hear from this group of people, you ask the question, why are you doing this? Because it's outside the norm. And when they give you the answer, the only way that, like, it's basically very difficult for them to describe the answer in a way that is not counterproductive to the norms that you already hold dear, right? So like, if you ask someone, why are you using Linux? I'll be like, I just really like the terminal. I find it really enjoyable. I also found Windows difficult to use. And that statement, I found Windows difficult to use, will like make people angry because they think to themselves, what? Windows is easy. I love Windows. It's so intuitive. Maybe they don't say I love Windows, but like, they'll then start thinking about the reasons why they like Windows, right? And so what happens is these people who are just existing in these niche areas suddenly are attacking the status quo, even though they're not intending to do so. And then you also have the activists on top of them, the ones who are actively trying to buck the trends that exist elsewhere. You know what I mean? Like between the two groups, right? It turns into a case where like the activists of the niche groups are extremists and the normal people in those niche groups are somehow activists. Like they have to be to survive. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that like, how do I put this? I am not saying that vegans are bad people. I think what I'm trying to say is that like, even if they are the best people, certain people outside of that group, if they don't understand the group, will always assume that the group is somehow against them. You know what I mean? Because it's very hard to get humans to think out of this like, dichotomy of being for or against something, right? And you could just, I don't know, like Linux, you don't have to be anti-Windows. You could like vegetables. You don't have to be anti-meat. Or maybe you I don't know, there's like so many other benefits for being vegetarian and vegan. Like you can more strictly regulate your diet. It's generally healthier, though not always, depending on the vegetarian. It's just, there's a lot of good benefits. It reduces climate effects from cattle. There's just a lot of things that are beneficial for being vegetarian, right? And so when you put it all together, vaguely positive towards vegetarians and vegans, although I do feel that their activist tendencies will turn more people off than otherwise. Okay, speaking about hate, what I can't stand are the activists. Some vegans and activists give bad names to vegans. I agree with that statement. To be fair, Linux community can be very toxic. I agree with this statement as well. A few years ago, I felt it wasn't as toxic, but then I found Hyperland, right? And like I I genuinely thought to myself that, okay, by and large, there's always going to be a few people who are like very arrogant about the fact that they can follow instructions on the Arch wiki. Okay, I'm sorry. Good job on you. Good job for you installing the Arch, Linux distribution. I'm happy you did it because it is actually very difficult to do. But I don't know why you're like so proud of this fact that you're like parading it around. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm very biased here because I did it when I was like a teenager and I don't remember all the details. But long story short, how do I put this? I feel that there will always be people in the Linux community who are using it because they want to feel superior to other people. And unfortunately, I don't think we can get rid of those people, right? I wish we could, but I don't think we can. But then I thought that was the worst of it, right? I thought it was like the Arch users, by the way. I thought that was like the worst of it. But then I found Hyperland, and I think the Linux community has a problem with the concept of freedom. See, Linux at its heart is somehow about the freedom of software, the freedom of choice, your ability to pick and choose what's on your computer, to choose open source if you want, or to choose closed if you want. It's about a lot of this kind of like, you have full control over your computer and what you want on that computer, right? Now, with that said, the word freedom is somehow very loaded nowadays, in that it is very somehow politically charged. It's not supposed to be. It shouldn't be. I feel like, every country should be, in every country and every political group is in the pursuit of freedom. But when you say freedom specifically to certain groups in the United States, it indicates that you are sometimes right and sometimes very far right. You've seen this a lot with, like, for example, Lunduke. I used to be a big fan of Lunduke's content, Brian Lunduke, but somehow nowadays his content's very politically motivated, and to the extent that I don't agree with. And when I went to Hyperland, and I literally was trying to use it as a Windows manager, I just felt really sketched out by the community. Like I felt, I could not describe it, but I did not feel comfortable in that space. Just the jokes there were very much against, they were very exclusive in the fact that they did not want certain groups to be interacting with them, and I did not appreciate that. And so for me, I've decided not to use Hyperland because I just was not appreciative of the community, and that is a big part of the reason why I use Linux in the first place, because there is a community of people who are working towards doing something, right? That's my favorite part of Linux. Yeah, I don't know. If I'm not a big fan of the community, I don't know why I'm using it, Sorry, that was a ramble, but long story short, I agree with the statement. Steam Deck is going to overtake, I think, and with more atomic operating systems coming up, it's only a matter of time. I don't know if Linux is ever going to be more like popular than Windows for a gaming choice. I think Steam Deck is really cool and a really good concept. But when it comes down to it, like, every game runs on Windows. And I think the thing about Linux gaming is that when I was younger, I was really into, I was never super into gaming, but I was very into Linux gaming. And the reason I was very into Linux gaming is because I saw it as a way to popularize Linux. I thought to myself, I don't play very many games, but I know people do. And I know people are really into gaming, and I know that one reason they're not going to be using Linux is because the games are not available on that operating system, right? Like, we've had this discussion in the Julia community a lot, right? We have a language, right? That exists. The language is great. Why are more people not using the language? And it's in part because, maybe the language doesn't have the right tools for very specific workflows. But it's also because just because your language or your operating system or your concept meets the level, the very basic level necessary for someone to work with that tool, it doesn't mean people are going to switch. So for example, with Linux, sure, we can do everything you want in Linux, even more in some cases than you can in Windows. But is that enough for you to convince your grandmother to switch? Is that enough to convince your friend to switch? It's a lot of work to switch. You got to relearn everything. You've already spent so much time and effort learning the tool that you have. Why would you throw that tool away for another one, right? If the tools are equally powerful. You know what I mean? So you need to clearly show that your tool is better, right? And this goes back to the argument that as you start showing that Linux is better in order to get them to convert, well, now you're attacking Windows, and it goes back to this like activist issue where there's no way to get people to convert simply by showing you're equal or by showing you're better. I think the only way to get people to convert to Linux or your whatever tool you're using is to just live your life, to do your stuff. to use it every day and to keep using it every day, and then just, don't make a deal about it. But as people start talking, like as you start like publicizing the work that you do, just say, hey, this was made on Linux and this is how I do things, and maybe some people convert, maybe not. I mean, it's just a matter of building that critical mass of community members that will eventually overflow into like create a like kind of, I don't know, grassroots movement that makes your thing popular, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but I think the year of the Linux desktop will never happen as long as we're focusing on it as a gaming-centric platform, is what I'm trying to say. Create more work for you. The answer, you gonna get Google. My dude, if you're gonna tell me that, don't reply. I'm saying this for very genuine questions, and you ask for other experiences. Oh, wait, I missed something. You're talking about the toxicity of the Linux community. To be fair, that is something that I think I have seen. I don't see it as much anymore as I used to, but certainly there are decades of old forum posts where people say, RTFM, and that's not okay. Very reactionary thinking. Don't get me started on Hyperlin. Trauma bonding with Linux. Funny thing about Arch users are going to tell you themselves they use Arch. It's ironic. Linux users want more market share, but in my experience, I say my experience because I see my experience, many experience the same, are gatekeepy as crap. I personally don't see that, but also I acknowledge I've been using this operating system for 10 years, 20 years. I've been using this operating system since I was 15, and I am currently 32. So I've been using this for over half my life. At this point, I am so, that's conversation, but if it's going to be like this, I think it's time, you're right about that. Let's go ahead and finish up this conversation, then we get back to work. Sorry about that. Open source guy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily see that, but I do see like certain groups being toxic, and we need to get rid of that toxicity. You're right. I have a GPU question for later when there's time for intermission. Yeah, look, we're at an intermission spot. What's your GPU question? Go ahead. For the record, guys, I have just put out the next chapter of my book, which is the GPU handbook. And if you guys want to take a look, feel free to do so. Here's a link here. And here is a link here. For the record, there are already a bunch of changes that I am intending to make, and this discussion has been had on Discord in the GPU book tab over here. So if you see something that looks a little bit off or like feels a little bit weird, these suggestions might have already been suggested by a instrument on Discord. But if you have other discussion points that you want to add, feel free to put it here or on an issue on GitHub or anything like that. I'm aware that the chapter's like kind of rushed in places and takes too long with other places. It's just a matter of iteration. And generally, when it comes to writing, like I'll write basically 5 times when it eventually comes down to text. So like if I write 50 words, I keep 10 of them, and so that process means that I'll like write a paragraph, write another paragraph, and write another paragraph, and then like I remove the center paragraph, and it causes like a weird pacing between the 2 paragraphs that's left. It just takes time, and eventually it'll work itself out. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to do find all on ABA, and this should work, I believe. But what I'm struggling to figure out... Oh, I see. So what I want to do is I want to do a bit array of this, and then I think I want to do true, false, true, I believe is what I want. And I want to do this bad boy and this bad boy. Okay, 2x3 bit matrix. And now what I want to do is say ABA is equal to that. This way it matches the type in the error message. So the type in the error message before said it has to be, let's see, what do we have here? High level, where are we? Hip function, accumulate, find number, find all. So it should be Boolean, which is what we have, to AMD GPU runtime mem hip buffer. So let's go ahead and run find all on this. And let's see if that gives us an error message. It does not, which now leaves me a little bit confused. So what I'm trying to do right now is figure out how to replicate this issue. So there's an issue with cumulate sum of accumulate of line 146. So I'm not, it's going to take me some time to replicate this issue. It's somewhere with the interaction between Molly, which is a molecular dynamics engine that I'm working on, and also AMD GPU, which is a GPU pipeline. My nicest experience with Linux by far have been Gentoo. If their wiki is so good, it's not assuming bookmarks, chapters, and have evergreen. Even if you are dumb, by reading the wiki, you can install Gentoo easy. See, I also feel the same about Arch, but I understand that other people have a different perspective. The Arch wiki is just so good. It's just so good. So in MD, there's basically random memory access, more or less, which is bad on CPUs considering cache. Is this also bad on GPUs? They have big global memory space that can be random access as static memory, or does cache concept exist there as well? Is it enough if you point me to the source where I can learn about this? Yeah, so I'm going to actually put a whole chapter on this in the book, talking about histograms, but the concept you're talking about is memory coalescence. It's the same thing you'd expect from CPUs. It's just called memory coalescence in GPUs. It works a little bit different when you're talking about trips from like your thread level memory to global memory. But in GPUs, you have three different levels of memory that you can access. You've got memory on every thread, and you've got memory shared between a block of threads, and then you've got the global memory, right? And then I guess you also have CPU memory, but obviously we are not talking about that at this point. If you move the data from global memory to a shared memory resource, it's much faster, but you still have the issue where you want to do like consecutive array accesses instead of doing like random accesses, right? Yeah, basically it's still an issue. And it causes a lot of performance deficits. There's ways to work around it. But at the end of the day, when you do an FFT for a two-dimensional matrix, it's still FFT transpose FFT. Like, because transposing will put all the data in the right form so that you can do the other FFT faster, right? And then transpose back. Like, you still need that data movement in the middle to do a fast 2, 3 n-dimensional FFT because of the memory access patterns. I think that answers your question, but if you have more specific things, let me know. But yeah, certainly the term you're looking for GPU computing is memory coalescence, but it's the same thing as what you'd expect from CPU computation. Okay, so this code is broken. I need to figure out why. So we're calling this function in here, find all of bools of rock array, boolean to AMD GPU hit buffer. I made sure we have the same type, rock array, bool to AMD runtime mem hit buffer. So what I need to do now, I think, is I think what we need to do is we need to go into the actual code, the neighborless code, and we need to print out what's happening. So let me go to the actual test. Let's run the test locally, generate the same error. And I think the other thing I want to do is check this really quick. So let me do, what do I want to do? Let's do Julia. And let me run ST. Make sure we're running the same version of AMD GPU. How do I check the specific, I need to check the specific version of AMD GPU that I'm using. Would they use submatrices to fit into memory? Yeah, that's what you typically have to do because shared memory is smaller than global memory. So what you'll do is you'll take like your global memory patch and you put it into the shared memory location. Again, in the book, I'm going to show this off with histogramming because it's a very clear reason as to, well, there's a couple advantages for histogramming as well because it also shows atomic operations. But it's, yeah, this is definitely something that we need to talk about when it comes to GPU computation. In fact, maybe there's a lot of different ways in which you can introduce this topic, but it's certainly something you need to discuss. ArchWiki is great. Gentoo is good too. It's just, it just handholds you much more. Let's say ArchWiki partition X or Y or do X or Y and then this commands. Gentoo will straight tell you how it's done so you don't have to look. Both wiki are awesome, but I use them equally. I'll stop here. No, this is great. I don't use the Gentoo wiki so much. In fact, I don't use wikis too much anymore at all, but because I'm on Arch, the Arch wiki is perfect for me. But also I acknowledge for other distros, that's not true. The pointer with the FFT is a nice one. I gotta look at it to understand it. Is there a concept of a shared view? I already explained it. Copy a part of it. I had a question. What the heck is NVIDIA PTX? I saw it on DeepSeek News. I don't want a detailed explanation. I just saw. Okay, here's your ELI 5. All right, I'll give it to you. And I think you're gonna understand it pretty well after this. I hope. Man, that sounded like Trump the way I just said that. Okay, LLVM. So here's how this works in Julia. I'm gonna explain the Julia LLVM pipeline, and this will explain it. Okay, so this is what Julia does. Julia compiles down to LLVM. LLVM is the lower level virtual machine that basically all like languages compile down to, not all of them, but C and Rust and I don't know, just a bunch of different languages can compile down to LLVM. It guarantees you some relatively good performance without necessarily having to change your higher level computing language. So you can have higher level structures in Julia, have them compiled down to LLVM, and guarantee at least C equivalent speeds within a factor of 2. Now, LLVM is CPU specific, right? If you instead want to run on an NVIDIA card, well, okay, ideally you could run an LLVM on NVIDIA, but that doesn't exactly work because it's a GPU and they have different hardware, blah, blah, blah. So instead, for NVIDIA, you use NVPTX. That's it. This is the easiest way to describe it. It is an LLVM equivalent for NVIDIA. There's like nuances here, but if you say that, most people will say, sure, that makes sense. Right, that's what it is. Now, keep in mind that there's a different NVPTX, a different LLVM-like language for pretty much every GPU vendor. And this is why SPIR-V exists, because it's supposed to be like agnostic for each GPU vendor. And in principle, it does work, but it's not quite that way. So Vulkan and OpenCL work off of SPIR-V, and technically that works with every GPU vendor, but currently for GPU computation, NVPTX is for NVIDIA. AMD has its own NVPTX version or thing. That's not NVPTX, it's for HIP. And then one API, I think, uses SPIR-V under the hood. I don't know. It's all kind of messed up right now. But essentially, this is why an MLIR exists, a mid-level intermediate representation, because an MLIR allows you to take some code, convert it to the MLIR, and then spit it out into any of the lower level, like the LLVM-like languages that you use. And I think that explains it. Okay, maybe it wasn't the best explanation, but I think that explains it well enough. What are we doing today? So today I have an error with one of my molecular dynamics simulation projects, trying to figure out what the error is. No one ever got fired for CUDA NVD. No one ever got fired for CUDA NVDA. Wait, what do you mean by that? I was also looking at LibreSoc for GPU. I don't know so much about this. Yeah, tell me more. Oh, SPIR-V is great. I'm a big fan of SPIR-V. The problem with SPIR-V is there's two different SPIR-Vs, and they're both called SPIR-V. So one is for computation, and the other is for graphics. So SPIR-V for Vulkan is different than the SPIR-V for OpenCL, and that is just an unfortunate world that we live in that these are two different things, so that if you generate SPIR-V from OpenCL, you cannot transfer that SPIR-V over to Vulkan. You would imagine you could, because Vulkan has compute shaders, and in principle, you know, a SPIR-V kernel generated from OpenCL should be the same as a Vulkan compute shader kernel, but it doesn't quite work that way because in principle OpenCL allows for function pointers, whereas Vulkan doesn't. That's really the only differentiation between the two SPIR-Vs. You can have function pointers in OpenCL 2.1, and you cannot do that in Vulkan. But in OpenCL 3.0, there is no assumption for function pointers. You can't use function pointers in OpenCL 3.0. They walked that back. So now virtually there really isn't a reason to separate the two SPIR-Vs. It is what it is. I think they used to say about IBM as being a conservative choice for stuff that you wouldn't have to explain. Wait, I need a further thing they used to say about IBM as being a conservative choice for stuff that you wouldn't have to explain. LibreSoc is an open source version of microcode which can run on any GPU ideally. Something like SPIR-V. Oh yeah, I thought when you said it, that's kind of what I was expecting it to be. But I'm interested in it because I don't think I've heard of it before. You can take complex algorithms, usually intended for power-hungry servers with big fat GPUs, and run them on tiny devices like smartwatches and cell phones. Oh, now that's interesting. It takes GPU kernels, I assume, and compiles them down for like embedded architecture. That's interesting. The closed system would be ARM Cortex devices, which currently offer Meteor GPU and OpenCL support. Oftentimes, it's quite difficult for customers to get their hands on drivers and install them due to their lockdown nature. This is cool. It's a good project. That's really cool. Good. I'm a fan. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to try to replicate this error. So I need to do a couple things. One, I need to figure out what AMD version I'm using. Like how, okay, so here's my issue. Let me go to ls.julia. That./Julia. Oh my goodness, stop. There we go. And then I want to do packages, I believe, and then AMD GPU. I need to figure out which version I'm using, what I'm using for my global AMD GPU package versus what I'm using in Mali. I want to make sure that they're both the same version. So here I'm using version MTL2, right? That's what I'm using for the test, MTL2. And I want to make sure I'm also using that over here in the shells to make sure that, you know, because this one worked and that one doesn't. This isn't just an issue where, like, if I update to the current master, it's all going to work out. So I think what I could do is I could force the, I could update on this side. So let me just run an up over here. up, and that should update AMD GPU, I hope, because it says we can. I'm going to run everything again, and then I'm going to set the project.toml in Mali to be the version that is on my global Julia instance. Yeah, so on the one hand, I think the Julia package manager is really nice. It's a really good feature that Julia provides that is not available in C, for example. On the other hand, somehow I always feel like CMake files are easier to do. I can't explain why. It just, somehow, just, I always have issues. It could just be because Julia is like, in a sense that the community is more active, and so the packages are, I think it's the cohesion between packages, which is the problem. That is to say that like all the packages talk to each other. Why is AMD not updating? It says it should be able to update, right? Let me try this. Control D, Julia, up. Make files are pretty generic and battle tested. Right, it's just that they don't work on Windows, so that's why I use CMake instead, even though I don't use Windows. 1 second. Would you like make, but in Rust? Oh, yeah, that makes sense. You are not updating, are you? I think the problem is that is in all the dependency trees that are created, just inherently increasing complexity. Yeah, I think I also agree with this statement. I think, see, in C and Rust, oh no, I'll say C, right? Because adding a dependency is actually kind of a pain. I'm acknowledging it is kind of a pain. People don't add dependencies as much as maybe they should. This causes people to maybe rewrite bits of code that already exist in other packages. That's totally fine. In Julia, the culture is opposite, where it's very likely that you're going to take code from somewhere else, from a pre-existing package, rather than rewriting it for your own purposes. That's also fine, totally valid. But it leads to a lot of dependency bloat, where, let's say, some package down the line decided that, oh, hey, what if users want to use CUDA? And so now, all of a sudden, CUDA is in the dependency chain for, I don't know, some linear algebra package that you need. Totally fair, because what if users have a CUDA device and they want to use NVIDIA for that? But you, as a user, are using an AMD GPU, so why do you have to... Yeah, why do you have to download CUDA for this? You know what I mean? And so it ends up being this thing where you have just a huge bloat of dependencies, which I think is common in like NPM and these web languages, but was atypical for me coming from scientific computing. It was something that I had to get used to. I think the availability of package extensions now makes this much easier to deal with, in that you can now, basically, unless the user loads CUDA, you will not load the CUDA package by default. There's a lot of things like that. Hey, how you doing? I know people use Zig as a dependency manager for C. Do they? That's kind of funny, actually. Same with any package manager. Yeah, I think that's the issue. I think because CMake explicitly is not a package manager, I think that is the difference, right? Like, it is you as a developer saying, these are the packages that you need, and getting those specific versions, and that's it. That's what you're doing, right? Whereas you're not asking a package manager to do it for you, and that makes it a little bit, in a sense, it means you're using less dependencies, and minimizing your dependency tree is better for everyone, right? A little copying is better than a little dependency. Well, okay, I don't know if I agree with that statement. And then dependencies start conflicting between each other if you don't use them. Yeah, this is also my issue right here, because clearly I'm supposed to be able to update AMD GPU, but I'm not entirely sure which of these packages is keeping me from updating AMD GPU. Can I just, what happens if I just remove AMD GPU and atomics, and then I try adding them again? Add AMD GPU. What's going to happen? Who knows? We're in uncharted territory. No, I'm adding the same version. Why does it say if it can be updated? Maybe it can't be updated. That's okay. It doesn't matter. Let's just do ST again. ST. It's fine. We'll use version 1.1.7. I don't care that much. Let's go into VI project, project.toml. Let's go down here to AMD GPU. Oh, I think I'm in the wrong project.toml. It needs to be test project.toml. And then we're going to go down to AMD GPU and use 1.1.7. All right, now I'm going to do Control D and run the tests again and see if it's broken again on this version. And it's great. Let's see. Is there an inverse tree command? What is an inverse tree? Should I know? I should know what this is, but I don't. Rust also has dependency bloat, even worse with Rust allowing multiple versions and features. At least it can be flagged which feature you want or not. I don't think Julia has the ability to flag which different features you want, actually. By the way, this error is not actually a big deal. It's basically just telling me that Metal is not supported because I'm not running on Mac. Maybe future package managers should default to flat list of dependencies instead of generating a tree. More maintenance when adding, but easier later. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. I think people are generally happy with the package manager. I'm the weird one in saying that I'm not happy with it. There's also the other aspect of having hundreds of dependency supply chain attacks. What? Oh, I see. Right, because at any point in the supply chain, there could be something breaking, or maybe even someone breaking it maliciously, or like injecting some code that could affect users in a very negative way, and this could cause the entire chain to break. Yeah, I agree with this. I really think that minimizing your dependency tree is like, not only is it something that I feel you should do as a software engineer, I feel like it's a great motto to live by for life. Like, do you absolutely need meat? No, I cut it out. Like that was me. Like when I was younger, I was like, I don't need this dependency on meat. I can take it out. If you're smoking cigarettes, do you need that dependency on cigarettes? Probably not. You can cut it out. You know what I mean? Like just analyzing your life, trying to figure out like what small packets you do and do not need, and then taking out the small packets you don't need. I don't know. It's a valuable skill and it can be useful elsewhere. I used to apply it to my own life as well. Okay, we've got good news and bad news. Good news. This is broken still, which means it's not a version issue. Bad news, I have no idea why it's broken, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to replicate this. So let's go and let's figure out where it's breaking. So we're gonna do Control D, we're gonna go VS test, basic.jl, and we're gonna go down to line 199. So PE start potential energy. So it's in potential energy of sys find neighbors sys. So I believe it's in the find neighbors function for this particular system. So what we need to do is we need to basically create the system again. And we need to figure out what the, yeah, this is going to be a debugging session. I'm so sorry, guys. Part of the reason I have not been streaming this, by the way, is because, how do I explain this? It's, a lot of work with very little reward, I think is what I need to say. Like, sometimes research is really fun. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy it, especially when you're making new things and you're developing packages and I don't know, this type of stuff. But when you're like debugging other people's code, it's sometimes a bit draggy, and I don't really know any other way to describe that. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to create the system over here on this REPL over here. So using Molly. Then using AMD GPU, and we're just going to create this line by line and try to replicate the same error. So we have system join path data directory. Now where is the data directory? I'm not entirely sure. So let me do a quick ls here. We should have like a data somewhere, right? Source test. Maybe it's in test. ls test data. No. Where is the data directory? I don't know. So let's go here and just grab this line. And then we'll find the data directory in a second. Okay. The data directory is going to be ls. Oh, it's just data. So if we just do, I guess I'll just put data here. Is this going to work? AT not defined. AT is going to equal to rock array. Try it again. FF not defined. What is FF in this case? All right, let's do 199. Let's look for FF. Oh, wait. Is it not line 199? What line is it? Neighbors. Basic 199. Oh, it's basic.jl. Oh, it is. 199. Oh, it's potential energy. And what I need to do is find the system. And the system is looking for FF as molecular force field. Okay. And now we have to find the FF directory. Oh, my goodness, guys. Come on, please, please. Let's find the FF directory. So the FF directory is, I don't know, probably FF? No, what's FF? Let's go and read chat here. Debugging session, I know it's such a pain. It's like you need to understand the whole package implementation to just debug a single error. Yeah, I find this is generally true in Julia as well. It's quite hard to like just change a single package. You really have to understand a lot about Julia. Like a lot of people say in Julia that it's an attempt to solve the two language problem. That is to say, like, people write code in Python. People want to write code in Python, but they end up writing code in C because C is a fast language that gives you the performance you need to actually do the tasks that you need to do. But I feel like we have a two-language problem in Julia. Like, surface level Julia is so fantastically different than like performant Julia that like new users probably can't write Julia that's actually that performant. They can get pretty close, but like, you know, we have all these @inbound commands and we have all of these like, I don't know, you have to learn about kernel work and all, it's all the same stuff. It's just that like, maybe the second level, right? Maybe, you know, maybe the second language, you know, is not as hard as C for some applications. Maybe it's a little bit easier, but I don't feel like it actually attacks the two language problem particularly well. We had this problem, actually, I was writing a paper the other day, and okay, look, I'm in the Julia lab. They add some Julia fluff. That's fine. It's okay. I don't mind that too much. But the Julia fluff they added was like, oh, Julia attempts to solve the two language problem or solves the two language problem. I'm like, what? It doesn't, though. Like, that was PR that we used back in 2017, and I don't feel it's relevant in 2024 or 2025. I feel like nowadays using the two language problem, it's something that only Julia community brings up, and it's also like not true. I mean, to get that high level performance in Julia is sometimes harder than getting that high level performance in C. And you're not even going to get C level performance in all cases because it could lower the LLVM code a little bit differently. The garbage collector could get in the way. There's so many things that could get in the way. And so we can't even guarantee C level speed for code that is much harder to write than you could write in C. So not sure. Tortua, what is that? Off topic, I just learned you're in Japan. How's life over there? I used to be in Japan. Where does it say I'm in Japan? I need to fix that. Let me go to Twitch. I'm in Barcelona right now. I used to be in Japan. I used to live in Japan for the PhD. Does it say it somewhere? Where does it say Japan? I thought I removed it. Is it still on my GitHub? Is that what happened? Oh, GitHub profile. Oh, okay. I can change that later. Okay, yeah. To be honest, I just left it as Oist because, to be honest, of all the places I've lived, Oist feels the most like home. And I feel like I don't know. In a sense, like, you know, my wife is Japanese, my kid is half Japanese. Like, I'm still very much attached to Japan, even though I'm currently living in Barcelona. And we also don't know where we're going to be in 5 years. We don't know if we're going to stay in Barcelona or we're going to move. And so, like, as a permanent address, I can't really put down the US. I don't feel like I should put down Barcelona. I don't feel like I should be putting down Japan. But, you know, at the end of the day, Japan was the place that I felt most at home. And therefore, I just leave it as that. I've left it as that, you know. But I think that answers your question to how life is over there. I enjoyed it. It's great for a gaijin, you know, foreigner. I think if you're an actual Japanese citizen, there are some limitations. Like, it's not necessarily the best for, like, Japanese women, for example. There's a lot of, like, inherent sexism in the culture that you just have to deal with and stuff like this that, you know, I wish was not the case, but unfortunately is. I don't know if it's as bad as it is in the U.S. in some places, but it's, you know, there's a reason we are not necessarily considering going back to Japan anytime soon, and that's just because for work, my wife would prefer to work here in Europe, you know. Who even updates a GitHub profile? I just don't typically do it. I should do it. At least people with Python and C, there's a clear boundary between normal code and performance code. Yeah, I also agree with this as well. You know, when I started Julia way back in the day, I kind of agreed with this two language problem, you know, discussion. I'm like, yeah, it'd be nice if everyone could write code in Julia. But now I think to myself, is it actually that bad that we have C code and Python code? I mean, sure, okay, it is kind of annoying that we have to glue them together, but like, it's not the worst thing in the world, is it? Like, I don't really understand the problem as much as I used to, you know? Maybe find a way to show passing time when you're showing research, like clock spinning. Obviously not live until you've done some time scaling. Yeah, like maybe some sort of like, like a speedrun timer would be kind of funny. I want a fast language with a lot of expressivity. Tales of old time since Algol. Look, Julia is a fast language with a lot of expressivity. Expressivity, I think that's the word you use. The problem is it also has an incredibly long compilation process. Also, if you're dark skinned, they're xenophobic. Multilingual programmers is the way to go. Yeah, so polyglots. I mean, look, you have to know more than one language. I think it's, you know, it's like if you're playing a video game, right, and you like the video game, you don't play with just one character, right? Like, I really liked Guild Wars. I loved Paragons in Guild Wars. They were my favorite. But I also played Mesmers. I also played, Rangers. Like, I played whatever I felt like at the time. Even though Paragon was my primary profession, I played other professions as well. And I think the same is true for programming languages. At the end of the day, you chose a language because it's good at a very particular task. But you should probably learn the game enough, learn the mechanics enough by going through other languages as well. So, not only do I know Julia, but I also know C and C++ and Python and Fortran. Am I the best at these languages? No, not necessarily. I would argue I'm pretty good with Julia. But it is in learning the other languages that you begin to see a respect for not only your primary language, but also for the other languages and their strengths as well. And it allows you to become a more flexible programmer. Every tool has a different value. That's true. Colorism exists everywhere, I feel like. Yeah. I mean, as we can see in politics worldwide right now. Anyway, let me do grep-rl-ff. Let's go into vi test, run test, ffdir. It's just going to be force fields. That's what ff stands for. All right, so we will do force fields. All right, hopefully that works. It does not. No such file or directory. Force fields. Let's do quick ls. Not there. Tree. Is under data. 1 second. Data dash. All right, there we go. That worked. All right, let's go back. Basically, I'm recreating the test, and I'm trying to get the error outside of the test. And then once I can get the error outside of the test, I can then start actually debugging it. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Basic 199 was the error. Let's just go through. So we have the system. We have the molecule centers. I think the system's now, we can now define the system. So let's try sys over here. Does that work? Please work. Come on. It's taking some time. That's okay. I don't mind taking time. We have nothing but time. That's not true. I have like an hour left, but that's okay. There's a weird whirring sound happening right now. I don't think it's my computer. I don't think you guys can hear it. I hope it's not my computer. Man, first I burnt my beans, now I burnt my computer. What a day, what a day. It's the beans. I hope it's not the beans. Oh my goodness, what a stream today, guys. All right, so let's see if we can figure this out. So right now, potential energy, this should, I think, let me see if we're doing anything else. So MCS, test is a prox, MCS, no NBS. If AT is a Q array, else we do this. That already is suspect. Yeah, this should be array. If A is within abstract GPU array is what we should be doing. I believe. Beans dependency is messing up the stream. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm a vegetarian. I can't cut out the bean dependency. I mean, I guess I could if I also don't need an iron dependency, but unfortunately that's baked into the hardware. You know what I mean? So I think this might be the issue. I think we're using the wrong neighbor finder. And I think if we switch this to that neighbor finder, we'll be okay. So let's do grep-rl and let's look for any Q arrays left over. Looks like we have a couple, and let me just double check to make sure these are actually set correctly. Yeah, so let's just double check to make sure we're not using Q array when we don't need it. So go to vi test, simulation, and let's do Q array. Oh, what? Q array. Here we are. If AT, yeah, we need to do if AT is within abstract GPU array. Unless, did he change it so the GPU neighbor finder is only CUDA specific now? No, he can't do that because otherwise CUDA is outside of the... Let's just fix it how I think it needs to be fixed and see if the tests run. That's what I need to do. Okay, so we're going to go into test, run test for Q array again. Q array there, and that should be the only location. Let's go into VI, test energy minimization, Q array. And we're going to go into abstract GPU array. There we go. What's next? Let me just double check the source files as well. Vi source types ku array. Let's see, it should be fine. And then we do vi source setup ku array. All right, let's give this another test. So what I just did was I found that for some reason in the hey Nick, how are you doing, by the way? I found that in the I guess in one of the changes that the main developer of the code just did, in some of the tests they specified that we only use the GPU neighbor finder if it is a CUDA array, but it should be for any GPU array. It should be. Okay, living your best life. Hey, that's great. Yeah, you were talking about your company that you're working for on the Discord. I'm actually incredibly happy that you're doing that. Debugging code I didn't write. Okay, can I just here? Let me ask you a question. Is that genuinely your best life, debugging other people's code? Like, are you being facetious here? Because for me, like debugging other people's code is like genuinely like one of my I don't like doing it. It can be kind of fun. Like if you know the person and you have a good working relationship. But there's a lot of times when I find, I'm doing the same thing here and I do not enjoy it. Only a bit. I do enjoy it because I have a pretty good debugger setup. That's fair. Like, to be fair, it depends on the person. Like one of my best friends, he really enjoys it. And I think that's fine. Like if you really enjoy it, more power to you. But I think it's one of those things where you have to be the right type of person with the right setup in the right situation. And you also have to trust your programming stack. There's so many things you have to trust, and in my case, like a lot of times when I'm doing debugging, all of a sudden I have to do like LLVM lowering and stuff like this. It's like, I don't want to do that. I definitely do not want to do that. Yeah. So, but yeah, how's everyone doing, by the way? I hope you're all having a wonderful day, night, afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time it happens to be your time. We're kind of moving along. By the way, guys, I got a couple follows here that I haven't said it thanks to. So Colmhain, Robobato, Primate Burton, hey, thank you guys so much for following. I don't have like Twitch alerts or anything on my stream. Like I don't like show off follows or anything like that. And I don't have subscribers available. Like I don't allow people to subscribe on my Twitch channel. But I guess I'm willing to put the notifications back on. I'm not entirely sure if I should or should not. Doesn't LLVM have nice tooling? I've only heard good stuff. It's okay tooling. It's I would not say it's nice tooling. But to be fair, usually when I'm working with LLVM, I'm not working directly with it, but I'm working with like LLVM-like languages, again, going through like NVPX or something like this. In which case, okay, fair enough. It might be my fault for doing the GPU stuff. Like that could be the issue. Okay, let's see. This still broke, which is great. Cannot convert object to type. This is a different error though. It's on neighbors line 85. So let's go there and let's figure that error issue. Vi source neighbors line 85. Here we go. Eligible B. That was not what I was expecting here. Oh, I see. Cannot convert type of GPU neighbor finder rock array boolean to distance neighbor finder. Why are we using a distance neighbor finder? What line are we setting this on? Let me see what we have. So this is gonna be a line basic line 188. Vi source basic, test basic, and we're gonna go to line 188. Neighbor finder GPU neighbor finder. So specifically, the GPU neighbor finder does not work for AMD GPU. That's not great because that is kind of something we're testing. Better than GDB? I don't think LLVM has better tooling than GDB. But maybe it does. Certainly, when you do it in Julia, you're able to walk through it with it's a project called Cthulhu. Maybe that is an LLVM project. I thought it was a Julia project, but it probably is an LLVM project that allows you to walk through it. I think it's Cthulhu. Maybe I misremember, but there is a way to walk through the LLVM code that makes it easier, and you can visualize it easier as well. I live in Python land. That's fair. To be fair, Python land can also get a bit sticky. So basic line 188, which is going to be here when we're setting the neighbor finder, and it says set property, and in particular, we are looking at line. That's it. That is the line. GPU neighbor finder eligible AT no neighbor list. Is it a problem with? What is the problem here? Neighbors line 85. Let's go to neighbors line 85. So the issue here is that cannot convert object type GPU neighbor list rock array boolean to type distance neighbor finder. Why are we calling distance neighbor finder? The GPU neighbor finder will call. Oh no, this one returns GPU neighbor finder type of eligible. So where is GPU neighbor finder? It should be calling this one, shouldn't it? Huh. I live in MATLAB land. Oh my goodness. Hey, can I just ban you right now? Or Cthulhu is a Julia project. I see. Okay. But Cthulhu can go through LLVM level code, right? Or is this a different project that I'm thinking of? I might be thinking of a different project, but I thought it was Cthulhu that would allow you to just walk through the LLVM code. So GPU neighbor finder calls this, right? But for some reason, I'm trying to do distance neighbor finder here, and I don't know why. So let me go back to the basic.jl line 188, vi test, basic.jl line 188. This is calling GPU neighbor finder, right? Which should call this, right? It calls GPU neighbor finder of eligible. Eligible equals no neighbor list and distance cutoff. Oh, wait, why? Oh, interesting. Huh. If AT is within abstract GPU array, for some reason, I'm calling this one down here. No, line 188 is here. That's what we're calling, line 188 here. Let me double check to make sure that is the line that's breaking. It says line 188, right? I'm not misreading that. That's 188, yeah? So we go there, you go to line 188, and it's calling specifically sys.neighborFinder is equal to GPU neighborFinder, right? Let me just print a yo here. Make sure we're getting in here. Print line yo, okay? GPU neighborFinder here, but then why is this calling distance neighborFinder? Because this should do GPU neighborFinder. What is going on here? Quit here. No, I don't need the yo-yo. Something is going on here. I think what's happening is GPU neighbor finder. I see. So it could not turn this into a GPU neighbor finder for some reason. And instead is trying to convert it into a distance neighbor finder. And the reason it can't do this is because a GPU neighbor finder takes a type B and a type D, and it says what? We have a Boolean type and then a D type. What's a D type? Oh my goodness, what a mess. I think banning MATLAB land is acceptable. I hate that I have such a strong bias against MATLAB. Like I need to, it's just, yeah, I just have a strong bias against it. But you know, my wife uses it sometimes, and you know, we're still married, I guess, for now. Sorry, I had to cough. Okay, so that's what's happening now. I understand what's happening. So we're trying to call GPU neighbor finder, but it's not able to convert it into a GPU neighbor finder. So it's trying to convert it into a distance neighbor finder. But I cannot figure out how to, I can't figure out why it's trying to do that. So let me see what the difference is between the two of these guys. So we have GPU neighbor finder. This takes eligible, discount special, end steps reorder, initialize bool. Distance eligible, distance special, end steps neighbors. It looks like we have a slightly different. I mean, it's not really that different, just ever so slightly different. But we are definitely calling. Okay, GPU neighbor finder. Where is this line? Oh, sorry, I hit the microphone. What is this calling? So the neighbor's line 85. Let's go down to line 85. That's going to be this one. But why is it calling eligible? Set property. There's something going on here. I'm not entirely sure what. So let me just keep going and see if I can catch this error again. So let's go to testbasic.jl. Yo. Oh no. Where did I put the yo again? It was in basic.jl, right? All right, so let's just keep going because we already have the system defined. And so let's go through and try to keep going. So we already have sys defined here. It should be defined for a rock array. Let's see if we can trigger the same error. Okay, let's go to vi test basic.jl. Let's go to line 188, and let's just do this line here. So we have to define what no NBS is, which is falses of length sys. So let's grab this bad boy, paste it there. Now we do, I believe everything else should be fine as long as I define AT is equal to rock array, which I think I already did. And let's give this guy a go. Sys.neighborFinder, and this should trigger an error, the same error we had before. Perfect. Method error cannot convert object of type GPU neighbor finder to object of type distance neighbor finder. Closest candidates are convert, type TT, set property, system. Okay. So we're doing set property, system, F symbol, GPU neighbor finder. Some information was truncated to show error to complete error type. So this is one of those errors I have no idea how to start debugging. I'm just lost here. Let me try to set it as a distance neighbor finder. And does this one work? That one does work. So why does that one work, but the other one doesn't? We have eligible equals AT. There must be something about... Let me try this call right here and see if that works. So we have distance neighbor finder there. That's what I'm looking for. So not set property, just set it. So that one works. It's specifically the set property that doesn't work. So that's because I guess sys.neighbor finder, this already has a distance neighbor finder. So let me try this there. Let's try it again, this time for the GPU neighbor list. Okay, so we can create a GPU neighbor list, GPU neighbor finder. This works. So GPU neighbor list equals that. That works. We can create that. But for some reason, we're not able to set the system to be that. I think this is a types issue because I think what happened was we had, if we look at the types for system, sys, type of sys, right. Right. Okay. So the type is baked in to the system, I think is the issue. And we can't redefine that. Yeah, I don't think we can redefine that. Now, I'm going to, how do I do this? I'm going to try to run this on CUDA and see if we have the same issue on CUDA. Okay. But to do that, I have to SSH into a machine. And to do that, I have to obscure my screen for just a second. So let me go ahead and do that. Quit. I guess, oops. You guys didn't see anything, did you? Oopsie, oopsie, oopsie. I guess neighbor finder is not type of common base class neighbor finders. No, so what's happening here is I think sys has the type baked into, here, I'll show you. Let me show you. This is, I think, what's happening. So if we go into VI and we go into system, source types, here, we go to system, maybe system, here. Let's see. Go down a bit. See how we have all these types in the type of system, right? We have D, we have AT, we have T, we have A, and then if we go down to neighbors, neighbor finder, we have NF. So we have the type of NF built into the signature, type signature for system, right? And so what's happening is NF is defined as some type when we construct system. And what we're trying to do is redefine it as a GPU neighbor list after it's already defined as another thing. Let me just go ahead and check this really quick. So I'm going to create mutable struct check, and we're going to read in a type T, and we're going to say A of type T, and we're going to end this, and we're going to say check of 1.0, and if we do check dot A is equal to 1, that should fail. Fields of types cannot be changed. And if we do check of A, check dot, wait, what? Mutable struct check T. I did something stupid. Check. It is of type, wait, what's going on? Check of 1.0 that should create check.a. Union L has no field A. What did I do? How am I dumb? What did I do that's stupid here? You want to create a variable? Don't you want to create a variable? I wanted to create a struct that had some type in its signature that, see, if I set this to be like float, that'd be fine. Float 64, right? This should be fine. So what did I do wrong? Check. Let's do float 64. A 1.0. And now if we do check.a. What? Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. You're right, Akras. I'm an idiot. I get it now. I'm an idiot. For Pete's sake. Guys. Can I go back to a discussion I said earlier today? Remember how I said I have not slept for 2 years? Yeah, this is one of those I haven't slept for 2 years type of thing. C.A, there we go. And now if I do C.A is going to be equal to 1. C.A is equal to 1. Or maybe this, 1. Yeah, that's the issue. Cannot convert, yeah, perfect. Okay. Because you cannot convert a string into a float easily. If I try to do that conversion, it's going to break. And so because there's no conversion policy between a GPU neighbor finder and a distance neighbor finder, the system is created with the distance neighbor finder in mind. And then when you try to convert it to a GPU neighbor finder, it breaks. That's it. That's what happened. Perfect. We got the same error. I understand what's happening. I want to try to test this on CUDA. And because it seems like it's a generic GPU issue, right? It doesn't seem like it's specific to AMD. So I'm going to test it on CUDA to make sure it works or does not work on CUDA. And then we'll go from there. Now to do this, I have to SSH into a machine that I don't want publicly available. And so I will do this, and then I will make sure that you guys don't see the machine. Control D. So let's do that. I believe... okay, 1 second. How do I make it so you guys don't see that? Let me go, okay, so we'll do, I think if we just remove that, we should do okay. Actually, let me go back up here. Shoot, I think I messed up. Oops. This? I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Sorry. 1 second. You guys don't even see what I'm doing, so it's okay. There. Okay. Try it again. And then I'm going to comment this one out. And yank paste up here. And remove that. Run source again. Huh. Control D. Huh. That did not do what I... So what I was trying to do is remove... Oh, I see what happened. Now let's try it again. Okay, I did it. Good. I'll explain what I did in just a second. All right, there we go. Now you guys have no idea what machine I'm using. So what I did is I see how when I open up my own terminal, it says... yeah, let's open it up here. It says Laos at Nima, because Nima is the name of my host. I just removed the at Nima in Laos, so it just says Laos. That way you guys can't tell the host that I'm on. Because again, I don't want anyone to be able to find this publicly. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run cd projects sesmix, ls here, cd molly. ls here, git status, git checkout, master, git branch -d k support, git fetch origin ka support. Here we go. All right, that should work. cd git checkout k support. There we go. Git log. Only run F32 tests on metal. Perfect. Julia -- project -t12, and now test. I was gonna run that, see if it works. My suspicion is it shouldn't. My hope is that it doesn't. And then we should go there. Git switch is better than git checkout. I've never used git switch. As soon as you open anything showing the hostname modifying PS1, will have become useless. As soon as I open anything, up, right? But do you think show the hostname? If I don't run NVIDIA, NVIDIA SMI, I don't think it will run the hostname, or it'll show the hostname. I don't think. Right? So I'm just avoiding running NVIDIA SMI. Let me just double check. NVIDIA SMI. But even that doesn't show the host name, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think so. But anyway, I just have to run these tests and then I'm off the system. So I'm not... It'll be okay. Git checkout has unexpected behavior with folders. Switch always chooses branches. I just have never used switch before, but I guess maybe I should. That's a good reason to. I'll try it next time. I have a drinking problem. That's what I have. All right, we have to update everything, and then it's just going to take some time, guys. So we have plenty of time. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, anything like that, feel free to let me know, and I will totally address it as soon as I see it in chat. Right, we're just kind of waiting for this to run and compile and everything. So, good job, guys. Keep up. I don't know. This is the problem with Julia. It takes so long to do pre-compilation. I just spend so long sitting and waiting to work. You know. I gotta check something. I'm so sorry. 1 second. I just got a notification on Slack that I think I might have to do something with. Let's see. Oh, no, I'm okay. I don't have to do anything with that one. Perfect. Let's go back over here, run test. I have a question. How do I know an archive preprint is legit or not? That's actually a very good question. Let's talk about that while we're waiting on these tests to work. You can do a ding command setup for these. Oh, can you? I probably should. I don't know. I don't know exactly how to do it. But yeah, so let's talk about it. So let's go to the archive right now in case people don't know. Archive.org. Hello? Archive.org. Okay. And let's go down to, let's just do computer science new, right? Okay. So here's the thing. What is the archive? The archive is a list of preprints that is papers that are being submitted, but they have not been published yet. That's essentially what it is, right? So this means that these papers have not undergone peer review. Now, the question was, how do we tell whether this particular paper is worth reading? How do we tell if the preprint is legit or not? That's a good question. And there isn't really one way to do it. You can just look at the quality of the preprint, and you can look at the quality of like the manuscript. That's like go to the PDF, for example. Let's take a look at this PDF right here. Enter and take a look. I just clicked on a random one. You know, like just by looking at the structure of the PDF, you can kind of tell what journal it was trying to be submitted to and stuff like this. And you can tell the quality, right? You know, there was one preprint I was looking at that had like really good results, but then like the figures were from like literally screenshot from LabVIEW or something like this. And like just essentially, if you're getting any sketchiness from the paper, from the figures not being like high quality enough or something like this, might want to double check like that the authors are actually like, you know, legitimate researchers, you know what I mean? So the reason you have to do this is because it has not undergone peer review yet. So peer review is a process by which other people, peers, will review the work that you've put out to double check that, you know, all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted in the work. Now, is peer review the end all be all of academic integrity? No, it's not. The truth is that peer review does not catch a lot of issues. It's basically just a way for other researchers to glance at the work and double check that, you know, they don't see anything inherently wrong with the idea. You know what I mean? The published papers are going to be located in the journals once they're actually published, right? So for example, in a few months, I assume this one's going to be published, and then you can find those on like Google Scholar and stuff like that. So yeah, again, peer review is a better than nothing check is what it is. So don't assume this is going to catch everything. In general, when you're reading a paper in the archive, you follow the same rules in order to determine whether the paper is worth reading as you would if you're not on the archive, right? That is to say, you check to see if there's any sketchiness, like typos and stuff like that are probably normal, but things that like anything that makes you question, is that real? Like that should be a red flag because the paper's whole purpose is to essentially make sure that the readers are not having those questions in the back of their head, right? Another thing you can do is you can read, you can figure out where these guys are from. These guys are from Stanford University, University of Oklahoma. Generally, I can trust these institutions. You can Google them, look at their Google Scholar profiles, see if they've been publishing recently, all this kind of stuff, see if you can trust them. There's all these different ways in order to tell whether it's valid or not. But I always say the gut check's the number one way. So there isn't one place where they all are published. No, not usually. There's certain journals that are really like popular. Like for example, SIGGRAPH is very popular for computer graphics. I bring that up because that's like the only journal that people really publish in for computer graphics is that one. But for physics, there's like PhysRev Letters, PhysRev Letters, you know, Quantum. There's like, I don't know, a quantum journal. There's like a whole bunch of different journals that people submit to. There's Nature, there's Science, there's Scientific Reports, there's, you know, and all of these have good papers in them. The way you find papers typically, like good papers to read, is actually in the bibliography of other papers, right? And so you go to the bibliography and, you know, as you're reading, they will make a claim. And you think to yourself, wow, that is a very interesting claim. I don't know if I believe that. So then you circle the appropriate bibliography entry, and then you look at that bibliography entry later, right? That's the number one way in which I find articles. It's through basically recommendations from other articles, right? And so if you found a paper on the archive that was cited by other people already, that's a good sign that it's probably useful, right? What are we reading, by the way? Task and perception aware distributed source coding for correlated speech under bandwidth constrained channels. What does this mean? So bandwidth constrained channels would be channels that have less data. So is this a data compression question? I think I don't know what distributed source coding is. Distributing source code. No, distributed source coding for correlated speech. Huh. Emerging wireless AR/VR applications require real-time transmission of correlated high-fidelity speech from multimodal resource-constrained devices over unreliable bandwidth-limited channels. Existing autoencoder-based speech source coding methods fail to address the combination of the following. 1, dynamic bitrate adaptation without retraining the model. Oh, this is fair. Okay, I think this is fair. Leveraging correlation among multiple speech sources, balancing downstream task loss with realism of constructed speech. But why do we have to construct speech for AR and VR? We propose a neural distributed principal component analysis. Oh gosh, I hate this stuff. A distributed source coding algorithm for correlated speech sources transmitted to central receiver. Okay, so I think what they're doing, because I saw a picture of a room down here, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, okay, if you have multiple sources, right, like multiple sound sources, to create the best signal to noise ratio from these multiple sound sources, you have to do specific tasks. I think that's what we're talking about here. I'm not entirely sure though. It's not particularly relevant. It's just interesting that it came up. Okay, we're still waiting on this to compile, by the way. Interesting. So I'm trying to read approve, and I wanted an alternative view, but I couldn't find an abstract that made sense. This is a good tip, duly noted. Yeah, I think the best tip here is just follow your gut. That's number one. Double check that the authors are from good institutions and they're regularly publishing. That's tip number 2. At least someone on the author list should be a regular publisher. The last author is usually going to be like the professor or something, the PI. Let's see. Double check the figures, make sure they're all clean, this type of stuff. How come you don't use C or C++? Would that be faster? That's a good question. I'll talk about that in a second. I think it's compression in band limited. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Oh, no, maybe. I thought it was over space. Is it over telephone? I think it's over. I thought it was over space based on the images that were provided. Okay, so why don't you C or C++? Wouldn't that be faster? That is a good question. And I will answer it right now because we're waiting on Julia to precompile. How do I say this? What is performance? Let's start there. What do you mean when you say faster? That's the question, right? Because there's 2 different types of performance that matter to programmers. One is runtime, and the other is a type of performance that people pretend it doesn't matter, but does genuinely matter, and that's compile time. For some reason, people just pretend compile time is not important, but I don't know. I've been on the other side of spending 30 minutes compiling Blender, and it's not fun. You know what I mean? The reason people pretend compile time doesn't matter is because the developer will create binaries and send the binaries out. But for open source, development, typically you're sending the source code anyway, and people have to compile it. Yeah, molecular dynamics chemistry. Yeah, so we're working on a molecular dynamics engine in Julia, and in particular, I'm extending it to work on various hardware. You know, AMD, CUDA. Well, it already works on CUDA, but so it works on AMD, one API for Intel, Metal, all this kind of stuff. I'm working on the final tests for it. It kind of works now. It's just some basic stuff to work on. Okay, so when we're talking about performance of Julia, the runtime here is, I'm going to say, equivalently fast to C. When it comes to CUDA and AMD stuff, it's actually on par, exactly on par with what you'd expect from NVIDIA. And in fact, in some cases, because the compiler is kind of tricky, we can output better NVPTX code than some people might get from CUDA, just because you're able to leverage some of the composability of Julia. So if you run sum, you don't have to write your own sum. You can use the sum from Julia and trust that it's going to just work in ways that it's a little bit more annoying to do in C. It's possible. It's there's some advantages to using Julia that can get you more performance than C, simply because you have more tools available to get that performance out of Julia. And at the end of the day, it compiles down to NVBTX, a lower level code that CUDA does as well. So you're getting very much equivalent performance in almost all cases. We argue that you get at least within a factor of 2 performance of most C code. And that's, again, generally true as well. So it's not necessarily faster in terms of runtime to use C or C++. But C and C++, in particular, has much, much faster compile time. Like, we're talking about almost 1,000 times faster compile time. I recently had a project that I switched from Julia over to OpenCL, specifically because I was spending like 3 to 4 minutes doing the compilation process for a frame that would run in with 5,000 FPS. So when everything was compiled, I get 5,000 frames per second off of the code. But the compilation time to get that animation was like an hour, right? And so what's the point of waiting an hour for compilation if you're going to, run something for 1 second? You know what I mean? And so it is a question as to whether Julia is, you could argue in C you don't care about compile time either, because you can just compile once and go, but in Julia you have to do a compile time a lot. And so that means that just because pre-compilation is part of the process, the way Julia works is it has something called type inference. I mean, I think everyone knows what type inference is. But if you don't, type inference, which I might have even misspelled, let's say you have a function of A, B, and C, where you've defined C as some array or something like that, but you didn't define A and B. You don't know what the types of A and B are, right? So you don't know this and you don't know that, right? Well, then Julia can't compile this function until it statically knows what these are, right? And it won't statically know what these guys are until you're running that code. So right when the code is run, it compiles the entire function for, let's say, if A is a float and B is an integer, right? Something like this, right? And so you have to wait until that happens before you're able to do the compilation. And then it will compile block by block. And so it's somewhere in between a just-in-time and ahead-of-time compiler. And so it can, you just have to wait for that pre-compilation step. In fact, in the chapter I just wrote for the GPU book, let me go here, I actually have a section on Julia and Julia performance, and I talk about this in a little bit more detail. Expected performance from Julia right here. I think I can just give you guys a link here, and I talk about this a bit more. I'm studying hybridization right now. Oh, that sounds really cool. That sounds like frames were generated during compilation. No, it was not frames being generated during compilation. I'll give you the process here. So a bit of a melodramatic post from me, but I'll show it to you. Fable.jl. Let's go to the documentation down here. Fable. So this was actually a specific case where Julia is uniquely bad at this situation, just for the record. So here's what was happening. This package is dead. I'll give you kind of like this here. Yeah, so I talked about it before, but so what was happening was, essentially I have a situation where I have to iterate through a function system, which means we have to compile that function system somehow, right? The best way to do this would be to use function pointers. Unfortunately, function pointers just don't work on GPUs. I hate to break it to you, there's basically no ecosystem where function pointers work, except for OpenCL 2.1. Unfortunately, we're on OpenCL 3.0, and they rolled back the function pointers in OpenCL 3.0. So, no function pointers, right? And so if you want to iterate through a list of function pointers, what you have to do is you have to either use the limited function pointers that are available, or to compile a giant function that has all of the functions inside of it and calls them inline. So that's what I did. And the act of basically generating this giant function, just it's insane, right? Like it just takes an incredible amount of time. And that generation is just like it takes 3-4 minutes to do one frame. And so just generating that function it takes forever. However, doing it in OpenCL is super quick because it's string manipulation, right? That's all you can do. Is there no way to get them back? Is open in OpenCL not for open to modify? So in principle, I could use OpenCL 2.1, but the problem is the following, right? OpenCL is a language, right? OpenCL is a language that compiles down to SPIR-V, right? SPIR-V then compiles down to GPU code, right? It will say GPU machine code or something like that. So the reason I bring this up is because OpenCL can control this pipeline from OpenCL to SPIR-V, but they cannot control the SPIR-V to GPU code pipeline. That's controlled by NVIDIA, that's controlled by AMD, that's controlled by other vendors, right? And so when OpenCL bumped up to OpenCL 2.1, they provided the ability to use function pointers, but the vendors did not provide the ability to do function pointers, right? They did not provide the ability for that version of SPIR-V to compile into GPU code, right? And so it's not so much a matter of like OpenCL, their side, totally fine. I could technically use OpenCL 2.1. The problem is hardware support. NVIDIA never supported OpenCL 2.1. So if you had an NVIDIA card, you just couldn't use function pointers on them. I think AMD allowed for it to happen, but this is ancient history now. And so they were the only vendors that allowed it to happen, and it just wasn't great. And so, yeah, it's one of those situations. Is there no way to get back? It feels bad. Is that the GPUs that don't have those instructions anymore, or is it that vendors don't want to expose them? It's a little of both. So in principle, in Vulkan, you can do function pointers for the ray tracing API, and there's currently an issue of Vulkan is currently trying to find a way to emulate the function pointers from the version of SPIR-V that technically does not allow function pointers to exist in the first place. Like there are workarounds, right? And so it's kind of the vendors just not wanting to expose them. And it's kind of that, yeah, it's kind of a little bit of both. We just need a workaround is what we need. This is taking forever. And I know why. And it's because I forgot to turn off the GL Makey tests, and now I have to wait for that to... Oh, I hate this so much, guys. I hate this so much. Oh, man. Okay. And I have a meeting in 15 minutes. I've got a meeting in 15 minutes, guys. I have to go soon. Oh, I hate this so much. I was hoping to finish this today, guys. I was like, oh, look, you know, we can get this done. It's going to be quick. It was not quick. We did not get this done, and I spent a lot of time rambling about my sleep schedule, as is typical. I'm interested in Pockle backend for Julia. Oh, there is a Pockle backend for Julia. I don't know. Sorry. Do you already know about it, or am I? So one of my best friends is actually working on the Pockle backend for Julia. It's the whole reason we're doing it is so that kernel abstractions can have a better CPU backend. Because right now the way kernel abstractions work is there's a few issues with the CPU backend for kernel abstractions in that there's like certain specific cases, like if you do synchronize within a loop, that does not compile down correctly in Julia, but it does in Pockle. And so what we're planning to do is convert the CPU code to Pockle so that you can get a better CPU generation for this type of stuff. That's what we're doing. I'm not doing it. My friend is doing it. And we've talked about this for some time. I'm actually really excited for it because it means, oh, for the record, people who don't know what Pockle is the portable OpenCL language. It's a way of taking OpenCL and making it more usable for CPUs. And so basically any CPU can use Pockle. Lee Streams, hope things are going well. Hey, what's up? Isn't Stream for yapping? I think it is. No, Stream is for this. I mean, it's kind of me working at the same time as chatting about different things. In the meantime, watch a cat video. What are we talking about cat videos for? What did I say? Paste this in your terminal for when you want the ding. Oh, echo. Oh, I see. Yeah, I should do that. So like the command echo. Is this gonna? I don't know if this is gonna work over SSH. Let me try it really quick. What if I just run this, and I just do? Do I need? I guess I need that too. Hello, test failing. Thank you so much. Run this. Oh. Command not found. I don't have echo, I think. No, I do have echo. I'm an idiot. I'm a freaking moron is what I am. I think this needs to be... there's a missing space. That, right? Did that work? Portal OpenCL, so where does it fit into the ecosystem of OpenMPI, etc.? How do I put this? OpenCL historically only works on GPUs. And so what portable OpenCL does is it extends that execution to CPUs. It's quite different than like OpenMP, MPI, this type of stuff, which is intended for CPU parallelism first. Pockle is more of an extension layer to a GPU-friendly language, to more modern CPUs. So that's kind of the difference. In terms of performance, you can probably expect reasonable performance in terms of OpenCL, as you would from the other languages. So it's an arbitrary compute target language. It's something like this, yeah. It's an ASCII character, so it should work. Yeah, maybe I just didn't hear it. It's supposed to like give us a ding, right? Like that's what it was supposed to do. Isn't stream for yapping? Are you ready for the meeting? I am not ready for this meeting. The problem is, one of my issues with streaming is that I only have the afternoon to stream. And unfortunately, the afternoons are taken over by meetings for MIT, which can only happen in the afternoons because time zones. That's the only time people in the US are awake, that I can actually also do meetings. So I end up not being able to stream a lot because of that. You may be able to echo A depending on your Linux. Let's try that one. Echo dash A. Was there a... I echoed A. Okay, I need to think about it. We'll figure this out later. We'll be back after the meeting. Unfortunately not. I have to make dinner. Right. Good. So the tests are now running. That took forever. Now let's see if they fail immediately. Also, I got another Slack message. I have to check. What a day. What a day today. Oh my goodness. It has been a stream. What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? Guys, I'm lost. What am I doing? I want this, and I want to click this button. Okay, what did I miss? Okay, good, not a problem. Ah, jeez. What a day. Oh my goodness. Unfortunately, I can't stream on... Tomorrow's Saturday, right? I can't stream on weekends because I have a kid. And like, there's no time. I'm taking care of my family, you know? So Monday's the next stream I could possibly do. But again, I have a meeting at 3 o'clock p.m., which is like 9 a.m. on Monday. So what I want to do is I want to do a stream going through the new chapter for the GPU book. That's what I want to do. Because we got a lot of good feedback already from A Instrument on Discord that I want to incorporate in there. And I have ideas of how I want to do it. I just haven't been able to write it down. I haven't had time. Yeah, that's what it is. I'm sorry. I don't have time anymore, you know? Like, we had a big discussion about this, how, like, my kid, 8 hours of sleep a night for my kid is, like, a good night, even if it's split between 2 different sleeping sessions. So, like, I'm dead. I'm so dead. 24/7, I'm dead. Like, you know, before having a child, I didn't believe in the supernatural. You know, I didn't believe in ghosts and gremlins or anything like that. But now, I 100% believe zombies exist. And the reason is that I have somehow transformed into one myself, you know? Like, because of this child's sleep schedule. Like, I'm exhausted, you know? It's insane. I don't know. It's just... One day, I'm going to look back and I'm going to be like, oh, what times? what times? I won't necessarily say good, but what times, you know? All right, well, hopefully... I don't know. Maybe this is running, and that's why it's taking so long? Or maybe it's not running. I don't know. One day. Yeah. One day. Oh, well. What do we have over here, by the way? Yeah, I have been trying to do more streams recently, though. I really do enjoy streaming, and I want to do more. Yeah, of course, GLFW didn't load because I don't have a freaking... All right, well, I have to run the tests again. So let's go into VI test. Run tests, and then I have to go to CI, and I have to block out these CI tests. So this has to be false. Now this has to be true, and then comment that out, and then down here this has to be false. Now we're going to run that again. Hopefully though, since all the packages were installed, it should be quick. Let's say. Yeah, no, they didn't even fail. What happened was they didn't run because, so some of the tests that are available in Mali are specifically for visualization, right? Visualization doesn't work over in SSH, at least not in Julia. I mean, technically I did SSH-X, so it should do X11 forwarding, but I don't know. I mean, that's like deprecated technology nowadays. So, with that said, I couldn't do the visualization tests. So then it tried to run the visualization tests. It was like, oh, you can't run the visualization tests. But I knew I couldn't in the start. And so I should have just... It's my fault for not commenting out those tests to begin with. I personally feel that projects like this should have a separate package for visualization. And it shouldn't all be in one package. But that's my own like personal bias here. I got to go soon, guys. I got to go. Man, that's unfortunate. But yeah, if you guys enjoy the stream and this type of stream... no, -X is not technically deprecated. It's the X11 server that's deprecated. Vendor out the monorepo. To be fair, this one's not a huge monorepo. It's okay. Also, why am I building glmakey? Glmakey is the exact package that I don't need to build. Anyway, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Fine, we'll get through this. All I want to see is whether these tests fail or not. That's all I wanted to see. Because if they fail, then it's not specifically an issue with AMD. It's an issue with the entire GPU pipeline, and is the issue that we mentioned before. There's like some type difference between what the system is and what we're trying to write to the system. It's fine. We know what the error is. We just have to figure out how to fix it. Right. That is okay. What I might do is I might just, if this fails on CUDA as well, I'll say it fails on a CUDA device as well, push just small changes to the tests, which I believe are necessary, and then let them know that actually the CUDA device seems to be failing for this reason. And then I'll let them deal with it. Similar to what I did on the last stream here, where I just kind of figured out the problem and then said, oh, let someone else deal with it. The truth is I've been kind of working on this problem off and on for the past, I don't know, like I've been working on it off and on for the past 2-3 years now, and it's one of those things where I've lost steam for it. To be fair, I don't know if I ever had steam for it, but I certainly lost steam for it now if I did, just because it's, how do I describe this problem in a way that is conducive to further discussion? There are sometimes problems that you do because you feel like they need to be done and there's no one else who's going to do it. It's one of those issues where, like, I don't necessarily want to write the code. Research is hard. It's persistent through time, like Jim. Yeah, but the thing is, this isn't even really research is a problem. I wouldn't mind it so much if I had a clear research goal here and there was a paper coming out, but there is no paper coming out. It's literally just me, like, writing this code so people can use it, and maybe they'll do research in the future. I don't know. Are the beans done cooking yet? No, they're not done. They're soaking. They're soaking. They'll be ready soon. But I was hoping to at least get these tests to run. So I'm going to wait a few more minutes, let these tests run, and then hopefully generate the same error. And if we can generate the same error, then I have something I can write, and we have at least some sort of conclusion to stream here. I have to cough. Give me 1 second. Oh my goodness, guys. I'm working on something that I thought would be easy, but now I'm at a tangent, which has taken up 2 days. Yeah, I mean, that's how this has been. It's literally been thousands of lines changed, but it's the same thousands of lines changed. Oh, but it's fun. That's different. It's very different. You have enthusiasm. My enthusiasm's gone. It's one of those things where, you know, I had to keep change. Like I did the PR 2 years ago, right? And then I did the PR again a year ago, and then I did the PR again a couple months ago, and I kept having to rewrite the same lines of code again and again and again. So if you write the code for others, then you provide research for them. So therefore they use your stuff. Therefore, they have to cite you. Yeah, it's not so much the citations. I mentioned this before in the research software engineering discussion that we had like last week or something. There's a very big difference between software engineering and research, and it's very difficult to it's very difficult for me to describe exactly what that difference is. On the one hand, you're both doing. I'm 32. Wait, what do you mean? That's not true. What's not true? Maybe I messed up. I don't know exactly what I'm saying. I think the difference is the following. I don't care so much about citation. AutoGPT is discussed but not cited near as much as it's supposed to be. Oh, that's true. Yeah, I think Loco Padre was being a little bit facetious here. The difference between software engineering and research is the following. I think it's that with research, when you complete the goal, there is a very clear feeling of I did something no one has ever done before, right? And even if you don't end up publishing, there's a feeling that I enjoy about that process that I don't mind if it's not published, just because I feel like I'm doing stuff. Again, no one's done this before. It's really neat. It's really fun. It's like, I don't know how to put it. It's just a level of enthusiasm I get for doing things people haven't done before, right? Meanwhile, when you're doing software engineering, you're still solving pretty much the same problems, right? You're coding, you're doing kind of the same thing, but the result is like a project for people to use, right? It is not quite as altruistic. I don't know exactly what word I'm trying to say here, but at the end of the software engineering, you develop a piece of software for users, right? Whereas at the end of research, you've developed something for hopefully the greater good of humanity, but ultimately it's to satiate a curiosity that you had in the back of your mind for the past, couple years, and you solved it. And now that curiosity is gone, you work on more curious things. Like I think the fact that research doesn't necessarily have to be for anybody other than you, it makes it more compelling in a way to finish. Whereas for me, software engineering, because I'm writing software specifically for other people to use, okay, on the one hand, man, I feel very selfish here with saying this. I don't think I'm saying it the right way. Yeah, I don't know. I must not be. I'm not saying it the right way. But long story short, like it just, the end goal is not like personal to me, right? The end goal is like, oh, this is for other people. Whereas for research, it is very personal. I think that's that's what I'm trying to say. Research feels personal, where software engineering feels distant. And I can't describe it outside of that, I think. One is generalizing, the other is very specific, but it's a body of work either way. I don't see a problem, in my opinion. I agree. Are you, yeah, I don't know how to describe this other than that. It's just, there's like a gut feeling doing research that is enjoyable. I love doing this. I mean, with research, with software engineering, it's more like for the community. It's with other people. I don't really know how to describe it. It just, they feel different. I still can't fully describe why. They just feel different, right? And so, like, again, if this had an active research project that was coming out of it, or at least was like helping people in my lab do research, that would be fine. But the main reason I'm doing this is, to be honest, to check a box on the DOE proposal saying that this project has contributed to the greater software ecosystem of various projects. Like, that's essentially why I'm doing this, right? It's for composability and working with other groups. And I don't know, it doesn't feel the same as like, you know, pushing the boundary of human knowledge. It feels like, I'm checking a box, aren't I? You know? And again, I know that the majority of my audience are software engineers, and the way I said that made it feel like I'm like berating them or something. That's not what I'm doing. The fact is, I have like an incredible respect for people who do software engineering, and I think if done right for the right projects, it's incredibly fulfilling. It's just, this is not the right project for me. I thought it would be because it's research adjacent, but it just doesn't feel right. There's something fundamentally off about the working with this group that just has made me feel a little bit rough. I don't exactly know why. So yeah. Anyway, we're gonna let these tests either pass or fail, and then as they pass or fail, I'm gonna have to log off. The meeting's actually now, but I was hoping that I could at least get the test error message before ending stream. It's cool that I'm creating something that people use, but in my opinion, honestly, researching it has a creativity side. I think software engineering is also creative, though. I really do feel like programming allows for creative expression in a way that like art and music and other things do as well. I do believe it is creative at the end of the day. It's just creative and useful, and somehow being creative and useful puts you at the stage where like, yeah, I don't know how to put it, you know. It's building a bridge. It is a thing that everyone has built, but think about it, how many people use it, right? It has value. Yeah, I think that might be it as well. Maybe I'm undervaluing like the work that I'm doing. Like the stuff I did for GPU arrays was kind of important. There's a lot of people who use GPU arrays, and I'm happy to contribute to that ecosystem. Stuff I'm doing here, again, there's a lot of people who are going to be using this engine in Julia. That's great. But it's just, it doesn't feel as, I don't know, it's weird. Well, if it's fun, then I do it for free. But if it's annoying, then they better pay me money or citations. Right. I agree with that statement 100%. I 100% agree with that statement. I feel the same way, but I think about everything that we use, it has software. I agree 100%. But the question is, does this specific software project have value? The answer is yes, it does. Yeah. Leos, do you ever do UI? I don't do UI development pretty much at all. I've done it sometimes, but I'm not a big fan. Just because I don't know. It's just you start getting into like front end development when you do UI work, and I am not really into front end stuff. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. It's just that like, for me, like. I actually sometimes prefer like terminal interfaces and stuff like that. UI is very hard, although UI has come a long way. That is also true. I think UI is actually harder than backend. Like front end, I think it's harder than backend in a lot of ways. There's obviously situations where like backend is incredibly difficult and front end is incredibly easy, but I think a lot of people undervalue how important it is to have a good front end. He's trying to dodge bullets with his words. I mean, I am trying to dodge bullets here. Like, I don't know what I don't even know what bullets I'm trying to dodge. I'm just so tired, you know, like the words are not coming out as they should. Man, I'm super tired. But I will say this, if you guys are enjoying the stream content, do let me know. See, we had a discussion on Discord the other day about like ways in which we want to, I don't know, somehow unite the streaming audience and the YouTube audience on my channel, because YouTube watchers don't watch stream, And stream watchers, I think, are like the core community members, the people I talk to, interact with, the one who allow me to feel the pulse of the community. And I would like to find a way to better integrate the community with the rest of, I want to find a way to make this work. So we've considered, like, for example, putting out like maybe weekly videos or something like that with edited down stream clips. I'm not sure how we want to do it. But if you enjoy the stream, I would like to know, and I would like to know, like, specifically for people watching this on YouTube, if you've gotten this far, what your opinions are on like pretty much anything I've said and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know how to make the content a little bit more appealing and this type of stuff. I do have some unfortunate news, and that is that the tests did pass, which means this error is specific to AMD GPU, which sucks because I thought it'd be general to any GPU. So now we have to figure out exactly why it's broken on AMD GPU, but it works on CUDA. So we'll have to figure that out in a bit. Okay, so I think we're going to close it for here. Again, if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, anything like that, feel free to let me know, and I'll totally address it as soon as I see it in chat. I don't really have anyone to raid, guys. I have not been raiding people a lot recently in the past, but maybe I should start raiding people. I'm not entirely sure about that, but this is a discussion for Twitch. So I'm going to go ahead and close on YouTube. So again, on YouTube, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, night, afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time it happens to be your time. I'll see you guys around next time for the next episode of Leos Labs. Maybe Monday. I'm hoping for Monday, but at least on Tuesday, I am trying to do more streams regularly, and we're going to try to find ways to make more content regularly. And that's the plan. So I'm going to say bye to YouTube. And then if you guys have some